involved youth the opportunity to become more productive citizens by building on the strengths of youth and their families in the least restrictive, most home-like environment consistent with public safety. The DYS vision is to provide the nation's best continuum of care for court-involved youth and their families through a wide range of programs that emphasize individual strengths, personal accountability, public safety, and skill development, family involvement, and community support. Over the past few years, as chairman of the Recreation Library and Youth Affairs Committee, formerly RLYA, I had to visit DYS facility because of several ongoing concerns and allegations, even during the pandemic, became troublesome. But nonetheless, Director Kearns, who was the former director, always answered my calls and was very responsible with staff and anything we needed, despite the challenges we saw in the facility. And some were, getting corrected and some were unfavorable. It was disconcerting for me to learn that changes would be made at DYS leadership only a week before the performance oversight hearing. I know the director resigned, I guess, last week. I filed several FOIA requests. That's the Freedom of Information Act with DRS, as I'm waiting responses. In the meantime, I welcome the interim director, Trey Stanback, to the performance oversight hearing, and I look forward to hearing his testimony and that from each of the government and public witnesses presented today. I want to thank everyone for joining today. Let me check and see. There's no other council members here, so we continue right along. As I call the first few panel of witnesses, they will be promoted from the audience to be a panelist. We have a tight schedule today, and we ask that all witnesses adhere to the allotted time. Some of our witnesses are youth or young adults, and so we will not be using their full name. We'll be using acronyms that may not even align with their name, but just the sake of keeping their privacy disclosed during this hearing. All right, so we will call our first public witness, Youth SC, Youth AL, and Youth DO.
Council member, they haven't logged in yet, so we could.
Haven't logged in yet?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. So we'll move right along, and if they come in, please alert me so I can come back down to them. Katerina Samoynova, Sarah Como, Eduardo Ferreira, Penelope Spain. All right, we're going to start with you, Ms. Samoynova.
Afternoon, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you perfectly.
I can't hear you all, so I will
can
read my
you hear me?
testimony and then try to figure out the issue that I'm having with hearing you all. Good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity to testify. I'm Katerina Semyonova, Special Counsel to the Director on Policy and Legislation at the Public Defender Service for the District of Columbia. PDS represents youth and adults in matters across DC Superior Court, in the criminal and juvenile legal systems, in the mental health system, and on appeal and in various civil legal services matters. Brittany Mobley, Deputy Chief of the Community Defender Division Juvenile Services Program, is with me as well and should be promoted as a panelist. For more than 40 years, PDS's Juvenile Services Program has staffed offices in the district's secure juvenile facilities, providing legal assistance to the youth detained there. Since 2020, that role has been recognized by statute as a result of Councilmember White's leadership in introducing the Detained Youth Access to the Juvenile Services Program Amendment Act of 2019. JSP has access to youth on their housing units at New Beginnings and YSC and is available to youth to address their concerns about the conditions of their detention, their access to services, and the myriad other issues that may arise in the context of their detention. PDS's testimony will focus on the importance of maintaining placement of youth in DORS facilities and concerns about contraband. The Comprehensive Youth Justice Amendment Act, the CYJAA, established that children who are under age 18 at the time of the commission of an offense, but were nonetheless charged as adults, would be provided the important and developmentally appropriate opportunity of being held in DORS facilities if they were ordered detained in their criminal matters. Because these youth are almost always in the adult criminal system as a result of the definition of child that is in DC Code 162301, they are frequently referred to as Title 16 youth. The CYJA ensured that Title 16 youth would not be held in Department of Corrections custody and would instead have access to the variety of programs, therapeutic services, education, with the option to earn a high school diploma or GED that are available in DYRS facilities to securely detained youth. It is PDS's position that the CYJA envisions Title 16 youth remaining in DYRS custody while the legal case is pending, even after their 18th birthday. Thus, a child who is charged as an adult for conduct committed at age 17 and is detained pre-trial would remain securely detained in DYRS custody while the child case is pending, even if the child turns 18 prior to the resolution of the case. This interpretation is consistent with the intent of the CYJA to treat children as children and to recognize their acute educational and programming needs. As a policy matter, retaining children in DYRS care is also consistent with the district's goal of rehabilitating youth and placing possible position for success upon their eventual return home. Abruptly pulling a child out of their educational, social, emotional, and vocational programming because they have turned 18 makes no sense in light of the district's ultimate goal of uplifting children and increasing public safety by ending a cycle of trauma and despair for young people. The last two administrations of DYRS leadership have acted with that commitment to district youth and have tried to keep this small number of youth securely detained in DYRS custody for the duration of their legal cases, or until age 21. If youth are sentenced to incarceration on a felony, they will necessarily eventually leave the district for placement in a BOP adult prison or a BOP contract facility for youth. But until such time, it has been DYRS's position that it should do everything possible to help youth by keeping them securely detained in the DYRS system and giving them access to support that they would never receive in DOC custody or in the BOP. It is essential that this new DYRS administration continue that practice and keep Title 16 youth in their custody, who detain Title 16 youth in their custody even after they turn 18. Data and the on-the-ground reality of the Bureau of Prisons facilities mandate that DYRS continue to make all efforts to retain these youth. The consequences of transfer to the DOC are stark. Youth without a diagnosed disability immediately lose the right to attend school. Those youth do not have the right to finish high school or to enroll in the GED. In fact, for youth without diagnosed disabilities, there will be no education at all unless they are able to find a placement in the GED program at the DCJL or CTF. Placement in these programs is anything but a gift. Even youth who are entitled to continue their education up until age 22 because of disability will confront disruption and learning loss. Further, all transferred youth face the risk of entering the BOP without a high school diploma or a GED. This will result in these youth being shut out from much of the programming that is supposed to be available to the BOP residents. It also increases the youth security classification, potentially resulting in placement in a more dangerous and overcrowded high security setting. All youth who are transferred from DYRS to DOC will also immediately lose access to cognitive behavioral therapy and trauma-informed care. The district cannot expect traumatized youth who have very frequently lived through poverty, exposure to violence, and emotional and physical abuse to make progress in rebuilding their lives if they cannot rely on consistent access to services. These are youth who did not receive needed mental health care in the community through school-based care and whose only meaningful opportunity to access such services may be when they are in DORS custody. If the district pushes them out of services such as brief therapy, structured psychotherapy for adolescents responding to chronic stress, Washington aggression interruption training, programs that exist in the DYRS facilities, these district youth will never receive the care that they need and deserve. They will only receive further trauma in lieu of treatment in DOC custody and BOP custody. It is inexcusable that the district could inflict this harm on Black and brown children who data shows are nearly the only children who are charged as adults, while claiming to support these youth and then demanding answers for why community reentry is not always successful. And I just have very short, briefly on contraband. With respect to contraband in facilities, this is not a problem unique to DYRS. Indeed, all detention centers continue to work on this issue. An advantage at DYRS is that its two secure facilities serve a small number of youth, and DYRS maintains a good working relationship with youth advocates. As such, DYRS has asked this coalition and youth advocates to help support its efforts to address contraband by advising clients as to the potential consequences of contraband possession. In fact, DYRS partnered with JSP to conduct additional Know Your Rights educational programming for youth in custody. To date, PDS has presented a session regarding how contraband allegations are handled in DYRS within the BOP and DOC. Just DYRS and BOP. PDS provided information to Title 16 youth about how allegations may impact sentencing and their future. Because PDS is available to youth in DYRS facilities, these conversations and others can be ongoing. We look forward to continued partnership with DYRS and providing legal education to youth. Thank you, and we welcome any questions.
Thank you. Let me see, is Miss Brittany Mobley, are you with PDS as well?
Yes, Councilmember White, I'm here and available to answer any questions.
Okay, so you're not giving an open statement, you're just here to answer questions.
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, give me 1 second. Sarah Como. See it right there. Yep, School Justice Project.
You ready for me to go?
Yep, you ready?
Okay. Good afternoon, Chairman White and members of the committee. My name is Sarah Como, and I'm a Ward 1 resident and the Director of Programs and co-founder of School Justice Project. I am also a member of the Youth Justice Project Coalition, and today I'm joined by 3 other member organizations of YJP, Open City Advocates, Georgetown Juvenile Justice Initiative, and the Public Defender Service for DC. It is imperative for positive youth development and to ensure a safe city that young people remain in the custody of DYRS, even if charged in adult criminal court. My testimony will focus on education and rehabilitative opportunities young people have while in DYRS custody. While in DYRS facilities, children enroll in Amaya Angelou Academy High School. The high school is available to all young people in both facilities, regardless of special education needs. Maya's high school program is comprehensive, therapeutic, and meets the needs of all young people. Students excel at Maya. Unfortunately, if children are transferred to DOC at age 18, despite being able to remain in DYRS facilities, they face an immediate disruption to their education and mental health treatments. Maya runs a high school inside DOC facilities, however, its scope is limited. First, the school is not available to all students that lack a diploma. Second, school days and instruction may be restricted due to housing units. Only students identified as having special education needs may enroll. This means that the 18-year-old without disabilities that has not obtained a high school diploma cannot attend high school while within DOC. For that student, they may request admittance onto the GED block, but there is no guarantee they will complete high school or earn a credential. While in DYRS custody, these students will earn a diploma, but while in DOC, these general education students languish. For students with special education needs in DOC, the picture is slightly different, but not much better. These students can enroll in Maya's high school program, but will receive differing levels of instruction depending on housing unit. This differs drastically from the therapeutic environment that they would receive while in DYRS's custody. At DYRS, all students attend school for the full school day. Once they have graduated from high school, students in DYRS facilities can enroll in UDC and earn credits while working toward a degree free of charge. While there are college courses offered inside DOC, program slots are limited and the courses are not always credit bearing. Another critical difference for young people is access to mental health support. While in DYRS facilities, students can access mental and behavioral health staff 24/7. This is not available in DOC. There is no access to therapy like in DYRS facilities. We know the importance of ensuring consistent access to educational opportunities and trauma-based mental health supports and services. If young people are transferred to DOC custody instead of remaining within DYRS facilities, rates of successful reentry diminish and young people come out without having underlying traumas and disabilities addressed, in addition to not having consistent access to education. DYRS has the knowledge, programs, and resources to provide trauma-based programming and education uniquely tailored to children. DOC does not. The harm does not simply stop with a lack of access to programming in DOC facilities. Without access to secondary education, these young children are at risk of being sent to a Federal Bureau of Prisons facility without a high school diploma or GED. This will preclude them from engaging in much of the programming available in the BOP and may lead to placement in a more traumatizing, violent, and higher security BOP facility. This is the case because a lack of GED or high school diploma results in a detrimental security score allocation by the BOP. The harms suffered in the BOP through the placement and lack of programming are harms that youth carry with them upon their return to the district. Because of this, their ability to succeed upon returning home decreases. This is why transferring young people out of DYRS custody will only detract from the district's efforts to reduce community violence and to foster the success of returning citizens. DYRS is able to provide age-appropriate education and supports to children, including those charged in adult criminal court. These children must remain within DYRS. Thank you for the opportunity to testify. I am available for questions.
Thank you. Eduardo Ferreira.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Chairman White and members of the Committee on Recreation, Libraries, and Youth Affairs. My name is Eduardo Ferreira. I'm a Ward 5 resident and the Policy Director at the Georgetown Juvenile Justice Clinic and Initiative. I'm also a member of the Youth Justice Project Coalition, and I endorse the testimonies of my colleagues who are here today on this panel. Thank you for the opportunity to testify before you today. First and foremost, we would like to congratulate Trey Steinbach on his appointment as Interim Director of DYRS. Director Steinbach has a deep knowledge of and commitment to the agency and the young people it serves. We look forward to working with him and supporting him as he stewards the agency through this leadership transition. Director Steinbach is an excellent choice for this role. Second, we would like to thank Director Hillary Cairns for all her work on behalf of DC's young people over the last 13 years, first at DHS and then as Director of DYRS. Director Cairns is one of the most committed, caring, capable, and collaborative public servants we have encountered in our work in DC. During her tenure at DYRS, Director Cairns continued to effectively build and improve upon the important reforms that predated her while helping the agency, its staff, and its young people heal and recover from the pandemic. As a result, we were incredibly shocked and disappointed to learn last week that she would no longer serve as DYRS Director, especially given that there does not appear to be a good plan behind or reason for such a decision. Moreover, we are concerned that the decision to move on from Director Cairns reflects a lack of understanding of the root causes of and trends related to youth crime in the district, the appropriately limited role that DYRS plays in the broader ecosystem of youth development, and the issues DYRS must address to continue improving. Given these concerns, I have two big recommendations and endorse the recommendations of my colleagues. First, we need to stop scapegoating youth in the district. The narrative that we tell about crime in our young people is incredibly harmful on a host of levels and impedes effective problem solving. Importantly, while people do not necessarily feel this reality on the streets, violent crime and overall crime in the district finished 2022 at their lowest point since at least 1992. Indeed, since crime peaked in 93, violent crime has fallen over 77%, and total crime has fallen nearly 60%. Additionally, while MPD has not yet publicly posted its semi-annual data on youth arrests, based on data reported in the media, youth arrests are also at or near at least a 15-year low. And while youth arrests for violent crime have increased since a recent low in 2020, youth arrests for violent crimes in 2022 were still 18% lower than prior to the pandemic. So why doesn't it feel that way? In large part because of, while violent crime has gone down, gun crime or violent crime involving guns has gone up during the pandemic. I'm going to summarize quickly because I want to get to another point, and that's to say, right, that we should not be okay with gun violence in the district, but the issue really is the influx of guns into the district resulting from the proliferation that happens with manufacturing and gun dealers. In fact, there are now more guns in the United States than there are people. And we have to move away from scapegoating young people because the issue is not related to young people specifically. The issue is that we need to address the influx of guns in the district. Scapegoating kids is a dangerous distraction. Instead, we need to find ways to prevent guns from coming into the district in the first place and develop non-carceral approaches to reducing the prevalence of guns in the District of Columbia. Second, we need to stop looking to DYRS to prevent youth violence. As of January 25th, 2023, only approximately 1/4% of DC's youth were committed to DYRS. This is because, as you all know, Chairperson White, DYRS is the deepest end of the juvenile legal system, which itself collectively represents the deepest end of DC's youth development ecosystem. Unfortunately, by the time a young person comes into contact with the juvenile legal system, nearly 12% have experienced homelessness, nearly 50% have experienced reported abuse. At least 45% of youth have been diagnosed with behavioral health disorders, and 44% have been deemed eligible for an IEP. As a result, by and large, the chief responsibility of DYRS and the other juvenile legal system stakeholders is to improve public safety by helping young people heal and recover from all the various ways that they have been harmed. This also means that by the time a young person comes into contact with the juvenile legal system, they likely have had contact with a host of agencies not DYRS, including DHS, CFSA, DBH, our public school system, and many have had contact with DPR, DOES, and the DC Housing Authority. Thus, when we're talking about preventing youth violence, all of these agencies must be an intentional part of the strategy and also must be held accountable. There has been a lot of talk about accountability for young people over the last 18 months in the district. To achieve the changes we want to see in the district, accountability needs to start at the top. It needs to start with adults across the entire spectrum of our positive youth development ecosystem in the district, not merely focused on the deepest end. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today, and I'm also available to answer any questions.
Thank you so much. For my staff, do we know if any of the youth came in yet?
They are in, sir.
They are?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, we'll go finish this panel, then go straight to them. I see we also been joined by our at-large council member Anita Barnes as well. Councilman Barnes, you got to open the statement.
Thank you, Chairman. I do not have an opening statement, but I am very interested in hearing from our public witnesses, particularly our young people. They are always informative. I love hearing from the experts, but I sure would like to hear from our young people. And I especially am hoping that we'll hear from young people that are participants in some of the strategies that are being recommended. And I know that we're talking about the Youth Rehabilitation Services Agency, but I think I'd like to know more about some of the services that the young people feel originate there and how they're getting on from taking advantage of those services. So I'm hoping today we'll hear that, and I'm really excited about this hearing. So thank you very much, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Penelope Spain, I see you on this panel as well. You can go right ahead. You're muted. I can't hear you. I saw you talking, but I can't hear you. You're unmuted, but I can't. Try to hold the space bar to see if that works better. Nope, it's unmuted, but it's still no sound. Normally it's my computer, so I feel bad for you. I'm just glad it's not me this time. Okay, why don't you work that out and we'll come back to you. If you can work on that now, we'll be happy to have you back on. I wanted to ask Ms. Katerina, are there any specific concerns? I know you talked about the youth being detained there. Is there anything specific we should be asking or looking for as relates to your expertise in dealing with the youth more regularly?
Specifically, Ms. Mobley has deep expertise with the youth who are detained there. These are youth who are detained pre-trial by a judge in Superior Court who are order detained during the pendency of their criminal legal matter. So that's the detention piece. Specifically about the experience of youth, council member?
Yeah, I know you said, I thought I heard you say you had some concerns about having to do with detention at New Beginnings specifically.
The chief concern that we would have is if the new DYRS administration makes the decision to try to transfer youth who can stay at New Beginnings or at YSC. DYRS has discretion as to where Title 16 youth can be held, can be securely detained once they're ordered securely detained by a judge in a pending matter. But that if the agency were to push youth out of its care and instead into Department of Corrections custody after turning 18, because then youth would be not able to access the incredible programming that is available to them at DYRS, including the educational program, the therapeutic programming, the trauma-based programming, and Ms. Mobley can speak more to that, but the difference is incredible.
Yes,
Yeah.
Councilman. If I may, the only thing I would really add is just really harping on and highlighting how beneficial this has been for the young people who are charged as adults. They are still being given the opportunity to receive these supports and services. So should there be a time where they are sentenced and have to go to an adult facility, a BOP facility, or even, to the DC jail temporarily before going out to the Bureau of Prisons, it provides them with kind of a good initial starting point, an opportunity of receiving services, potentially getting certificates on certain programs, certain supports and services. So should they go to a BOP facility, they now have some things in their toolbox, which enable them to potentially, and their attorney, to argue for a better type of placement at a BOP facility. So maybe they can continue on some of that. And quite frankly, the services and programmings that DYRS provides in their facility are not things that are definitely nowhere near the extent as what's offered at the DC jail. So, to Ms. Semenova's point, it is really important, and we are very hopeful that the new leadership of DYRS moving forward maintains Director Cairns' leadership and commitment to the Title 16 youth.
Got it. And anyone can jump in on this. I know one of the concerns we've heard before were about the intake process, and this was more so probably a year and a half ago, doing more so when we were the height of COVID, about the youth being intake staying in solitary confinement for too long. Have you all heard that or been seeing that at any rate?
So I'm happy to note that earlier on at the height of the pandemic, when we were less knowledgeable about this virus and what to do, youth were definitely housed in a way that I don't think anybody on here would have hoped for prior to this kind of novel virus impacting the world. So what has shifted, and I believe what has happened now, they have moved, I would say DYRS has moved very quickly to get young people tested, get those results back, and to get them onto an intake unit where they're just kind of being monitored for a short period of time. Even if they've tested negative when they first get there, they're housed in an intake unit for a period of time just to make sure to monitor that nothing comes up later. There's not a subsequent positive test later. And then they're moved on to a unit with other youth where they're still monitoring for that treatment, for any signs or symptoms. But that issue that you just mentioned, I think has definitely improved as we've just learned more and youth are having more opportunities to be on the floor. Any times that I will say that we have seen anything happen the opposite, it's been extremely rare situations. And anytime there have been concerns, we've been able to address that with the director or the deputy director for secured programs, and that seems to get resolved right away.
Thank you. I know one of my other concerns were around education. Making sure our youth are getting access to quality education while they're, regardless of how much time they are there. And I know that we were supporting a student who was Title 16 that was detained at YSC. And since he's been transferred to DC jail, he's no longer in college anymore. This youth was in, I believe, UDC. Are you all saying that or have any concerns about that?
Yes, that is a big concern, and it's one of the reasons why we believe that the young people need to stay in DYRS. When they are transferred to DOC, there's a huge disruption. UDC is not there. The student will have lost all of the work that they've done toward the credits and the courses that they were enrolled in. It's a big issue.
Got it. For the sake of time, I'm gonna drop down to Ms. Spain. She's back.
Thank you, Councilmember White. I apologize for the technical difficulties. Can you hear me now? Very good. And good afternoon as well, Councilmember Bonds and members of the committee. My name is Penelope Spain, and I'm a resident of Ward 4 and the CEO and co-founder of Open City Advocates, which provides legal representation and mentoring to youth who have been committed to DYRS. Open City Advocates is also a member of the Youth Justice Project Coalition, which is a coalition of DC-based organizations that strives to create a DC where our children, and particularly our Black and Brown children, are free to be kids and are supported throughout their transformation into healthy, thriving adults. Under Director Cairns, DYRS made laudable efforts to improve case planning for young people, with an emphasis on serving them in the community instead of resorting to harmful practices of incarceration. First, DYRS is now replacing its outdated, deficit-based system of risk assessment and case planning with the much more rigorous, strength-based youth level of service, YLS. The YLS addresses both risk assessment and service planning, is instrumental in reducing reliance on cookie-cutter services, and instead emphasizes the importance of individualizing services and supports to meet the unique needs of each and every child at a particular moment in their adolescence and personal growth. Importantly, the YLS has been statistically proven to reduce recidivism. It can accurately distinguish low-risk from high-risk youth and designs effective individualized case planning. The YLS is indeed a rigorous tool that takes time and effort to implement. Our children are very much worth that time and effort. Not only will the use of the YLS lead to better outcomes for children, it will also lead to a safer community. Second, DYRS leadership has been working diligently to improve the methods by which its care coordinators support young people by encouraging more frequent in-person contact with youth, both in facilities and in the community, which came nearly to a halt during the pandemic, and by ensuring warm handoffs when referring youth to community-based services. Meeting with young people face-to-face can be time-intensive for care coordinators, but again, are our children worth anything less? At Open City Advocates, we have seen this in our own experience. Since the pandemic, DYRS has been holding most of its team decision-making meetings over the phone. It is high time for DYRS to revert to in-person team meetings. Our clients who receive only phone meetings feel disconnected from and disregarded by DYRS. In sharp contrast, the few clients who have received in-person meetings feel a sense of trust and care from DYRS, and in turn are much more responsive to DYRS services. DYRS must, however, stay laser focused on the youth whom the DC Family Court has committed to its care and custody. Although we applaud DYRS's efforts to open its achievement centers and community-based programs to all youth, even those who are not committed, we must be sure that our city does not come to rely on DYRS as the agency tasked with preventing youth violence more generally. For example, the Budding Violence Prevention Program being developed under DYRS, a program that targets at-risk 10 to 14-year-olds, mistakenly tasks DYRS with a project that falls squarely outside its purview. Our coalition strongly urges the mayor and DC Council to relocate that program within the Department of Human Services, which runs DYRS's other youth diversion and prevention services. DHS has years of experience developing meaningful intervention services that are therapeutic, trauma responsive, and effective. Under no circumstances should DYRS run a program that pulls children from underserved schools and communities and introduces them to the city's justice system. We have spoken repeatedly in the district about breaking the school to prison pipeline, and yet this program is priming the pipe, widening our net to funnel Black and brown children into our criminal legal system. From a legal perspective, this is likely to have dire consequences. Children who are struggling do not need to be scared straight by a system, city, or program previewing for them what is in store if they don't learn to fly right. We know those programs don't work and instead exacerbate trauma and increase the likelihood of future court contact. These children don't need to be scared straight. They need therapeutic, trauma-responsive services provided by our mental health professionals and recreational specialists, not our juvenile justice agency. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today, and I'm also happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. I want to ask Mr. Ferreira, do you believe that the arrest correctly corresponds to the level of crime and violence? That's been an ongoing conversation in the district. As you know, there's two different narratives. One is that, you know, DC is too lenient on crime. Then there's a narrative that incarceration has not been a productive tool to curb violence in the city. And I know you talked about the influx of guns. I just didn't know if you wanted to comment on that aspect as well.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Chairperson White. So I think the reality of it is that arrests do correspond to true crime in the District of Columbia when it relates to young people. Prior to the pandemic, we were arresting far too many young people for misdemeanors that really corresponded more to normative adolescent behavior rather than actually true crime. And so what you've seen during the pandemic with further declines in youth arrests is that we're starting to focus on serious behavior rather than criminalizing adolescents, essentially. And so in the first year of the pandemic was the first year that I think arrests flipped from being majority misdemeanors to majority felonies. And with that, we also saw the percentage of cases that were papered increasing correspondingly as well, to a focus on more serious offenses. And so, yes, from the standpoint of focusing on actual crime rather than on criminalizing adolescent behavior, I think the trends accurately correspond to that. The other piece is that I think the district has improved significantly. We're not too lenient. What we've done better is really individualize our interventions and recognize that we can do a lot of harm by intervening incorrectly. So the YLS that Ms. Spain mentioned is based on this body of research called risk needs responsivity model, which essentially just means you have to connect the right service for the right kid at the right dose. And what we know from the broad research are two things. One, most kids are going to desist on their own. They're going to stop engaging with delinquent behavior just as they get older, as they age, as their brain develops. The other thing that we know is if you over-intervene, you actually risk turning a low-risk kid or a medium-risk kid into a high-risk kid. So you actually interrupt the natural process of desistance by doing things like over-arresting, over-policing, over-incarcerating. And so it's critical, and I think the district has done a great job over the last, especially 5 years, but really kind of 10 years, moving into this posture of more individualization and doing less or doing more with less, right? Can we increase the use of diversion to make sure kids are getting services without the downsides of being involved in the criminal legal system? Can we use more deferred prosecution agreements and deferred disposition agreements to, again, connect young people to services that they need while incentivizing compliance and not saddling young people with the long-term consequences and collateral consequences of having a criminal or a juvenile adjudication. And so I think we've come a long way over the last 5-10 years, and I think we should continue leaning into this direction.
Thank you. And that leads me to this comment. Ms. Penelope Spain, you talked about it's prevention, violence prevention is outside of DYS mission, essentially, and that should be under, I think you said, Department of Human Services. And I know and I don't have a statement about that, but I do know that we understood, based on exactly what Mr. Ferrer just said, that if we intervene earlier, and I think he used the word diversion, and have diversion programs, organizations, individuals in place, we decrease the number of those who may get on the track to be in the system or involved in any criminal activity. And I know for the last couple of years, myself with the mayor's administration, been trying to figure out who does what, where, and how to ensure that our youth and young adults are not just coming through the doors, going back out without any real help and support to get them to become mature, responsible citizens in the district. And I do know about the new facilities that DYS is building as part of its violence prevention strategy. I have a lot of questions about that. I was walking through that with Director Kearns and her staff about what that would look like, and I had some strong opinions about it. But do you see this as helpful or not helpful as far as where we're going with the violence that relates to youth and young adults in the district?
It's a great question, Chairman White. And I do think that there is certainly a need for earlier intervention services, particularly trauma responsive ones that are delivered in the community, in the family, in the home. I think that we really need to look at the root cause of what we're trying to get at. So the young people who I understand are being targeted by this program are 10 to 14-year-olds, for example. These are young people who have experienced, a life of poverty, extreme trauma, and there is a need for trauma responsive services, not a delinquency responsive approach to them. So merely by having them turn to the Department of Youth Rehabilitation Services, that alone causes a labeling effect, where young people and their families look at the challenges that they're facing through the eyes of the criminal legal system or the juvenile legal system. That alone is harmful. As one thinks about a 10 to 14-year-old thinking about their own identity in the community, it is one where they then are looked at as, this must be the agency where I belong, the Department of Youth Rehabilitation Services, the deep end of the juvenile justice system. It's also sending a message to the other players in the community who are trying to support them. So some of the referral agencies, for example, the DC Public Schools. So again, as I mentioned, there's the school to prison pipeline that we've worked really hard to break, particularly for brown and Black children in the district. And when you turn to the schools and say, give us your most troubled kids and we in the juvenile justice system will handle it, we're sending a message to the schools and the other support systems surrounding that child that we are essentially pre-labeling that child as a future delinquent child, instead of one who has gone through extreme poverty, trauma, and needs a mental health, behavioral health, recreational services to lift them up. So for many of the young people who we serve, we hear, where are the rec centers? We want more recreation. It is the recreation and the support services in the community, not necessarily needing to drive out to the former grounds of the Oak Hill Youth Center, passing by the razor wire of New Beginnings to go get services, which is, I think, the facility and the buildings that you were referring to, Chairman White. That alone just creates a real disturbing path, I think, for these young people that we do not want to start down. So as much as I
let me share this real quick.
Sure.
I guess for me, I'm consistently hearing, first is not an and or it's a both. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but you get what I'm saying. We need all mental health. We need the recreation centers. We all of it working together to ensure we create the best safe space places for outcomes for our youth. But one of the consistent things I'm hearing continuously is that, Mr. White, my son is in the streets. He's 13. He's out of control. I can't afford to lose my place with my other 3 to 4 kids here because he is out doing who knows what. People have been threatening him. People have come to my door. They've been shooting at my house. I've been up to the school so many times. He don't listen. There's nothing I really can do with him. Is there any place he can go overnight they can house him? Because I don't want to risk my voucher or living where I live because he's coming here and people are looking for him. And I've heard this, not even just from the male child. This happening now more for the female child. And so parents are looking for somewhere or some help for children to go that's safe. They're looking towards the government to help out, that they know they can get an education, food, and shelter. And the second part is I feel like my child can't get no help until he get locked up for doing something wrong. But I'm coming to y'all early on saying I need help, and I'm getting none. So when he get locked up and do something crazy, and y'all come on call me and have me in court because he's not going to school every day, and like I'm the one that's wrong, and I'm doing all I can to help him. But the peer pressure and social media is speaking louder than me each and every day. I see, Mr. Ferrer, you got your hand up. Or is that old?
Yeah, Chairman White, we hear very similar things from our parents once we come into contact with young people in DC Superior Court. We're down there almost every day representing young people. And to me, what I hear is what a failure of the front end to prevent kids and just really support young people and their families from getting to that point in the first place, right? And this is what I think, DYRS, as we all know, only picks up at the very end. Once a young person has been encountering all of these different agencies, the schools, DHS, DBH, et cetera, and even when a young person becomes involved in the system, we still have to rely on these agencies to do their work. Because a young person is going to be in the community. They're going to get their mental health services from DBH. They're going to be going to DCPS or public charter schools. And so what we really need to be doing is getting the front end to step up. Putting a program like this at DYRS only allows folks to continue kicking the can down the road. We need to be investing in young people and their families early on, more directly, and in the community, which is why a program like this, we're not saying a program like this isn't necessary or wouldn't be helpful. It's that for the long-term success of a program like this, it's got to be at a different agency. It's got to be at DHS or DBH or DPR or some combination of those 3 agencies working together. Because at the end of the day, no kid wants to feel like they're an at-risk kid. No kid wants to feel like they're being prevented from going into the delinquency system. They want adults who are investing in them directly because they care about them, because they want to see them be successful. And when you're telling a kid, you got to go to this DYRS program or else you're going to end up locked up later on down the line, or you're going to end up in the streets, we're already starting from a deficit-based standpoint, and it's not going to be an attractive place for young people to go.
Councilman Bonds, you got any other questions or comments for this panel?
Yes, I do, and thank you very much. I want to follow along with this line of thought, and I thank the panel for being informative about this issue. But Councilmember White is exactly correct. We are hearing more and more from family members that understand that they have no control over some of the other younger family members. And I'm just wondering, as we look to solutions, is there the possibility that we could create a state of being where following school, young people would, when I say following school, as they leave school each day, that they would go to a very specialized program that would help them to navigate, and a program that would really almost do everything except give them a bath and put them to bed so they can start a new day. In other words, a holistic program where life skills are taught, hopefully interventions that would change their minds about the trajectory that they are currently on and are a part of, and would put them in a new state of reference for a period of time. So it's like a commitment to a new way of life for a temporary period of time, but would not take them outside of their family structure, with the proviso that they're going to stay in school and show productivity towards at least being a more productive member of our society. I kind of tried to describe something that's not really a confinement, but confinement is only related to the programming that they must participate in. Or as Councilmember White says, they'll be on their way to a very confined space. Just wondered.
Let me address this in two ways quickly. One is, we know why young people come into contact with the delinquency system. We've got a great root causes report by CJCC. It is trauma. I think the front line, if what we really want to be doing is preventing youth from coming into contact with the system, is pushing in supports and services early to support their families and themselves in the community. It's got to be multi-generational strategies, because oftentimes what happens is when we take kids out of their community, we don't do anything to address the context that they're going back into. And we know they're not going to be out of the community for very long because, one, it's not developmentally appropriate, and two, it's not effective in terms of accomplishing the goals we want to accomplish. So I think when we look at how to address the issues that we're seeing, it has to start by getting much better and much more focus on prevention, on preventing abuse and neglect, on preventing homelessness, on increasing income supports for families directly. I think the pilot that Mayor Bowser launched during the pandemic, supporting new mothers in the district with direct cash assistance, is a very promising example of more of what we need to be doing. And then the second thing, when harm happens, we need to intervene, but also with evidence-based programming, again, in the community. What we know is young people and their families, because this is intergenerational trauma, that, as you all know, families are experiencing. And that's what we really need to be addressing. So it would be pushing, it wouldn't be taking kids out of their families and having them go someplace after school. It would really be pushing supports into those families so that they're getting what they need in order to be successful as a family unit. I think triple P parenting is a great example that we've never had here in the district, but it really is a public health approach that goes from universal interventions to very specific interventions with individual caregivers and their children in order to improve that parenting relationship and in order to create a healthier dynamic in the household. So that's where I would start.
Well, I appreciate that. And I hear you loud and clear, but my concern is, what do we do with the young people that parents have already determined are out of control? And they have no way of bringing them back into, as I call it, the mothership, the home. And so, I mean, let's get real. We know we have a bunch of young people who listen to no one, and under a threat of jail, maybe that makes a difference, but we're not proposing jail. I am not proposing jail. I am proposing that you must participate in this program, each day, and each day is related to your school day. So that means I want to keep you in school. So I'm not suggesting for a minute that we would not put in place additional services that would be going into neighborhoods, but we have to accept the fact that we have more than one type of young person in our communities now. And how do we work with all of the types that we have? Because we want to save as many of them as is possible. And so I don't think it's either or. I'm just trying to look at this category that Councilmember White has adequately described. When you talk to the parents that are struggling, you know, they don't have time for the interventions to reach them directly and begin to transform their community. Meanwhile, their kid is away when he or she wants to be, and with no strings attached. They're doing what they want to do. They've created their own society. And so how do we get those that have created their own society to at least come back and to look at the society that they left? That's what I'm speaking of.
Yeah. So one, I would respectfully push back. My experience with parents is often that they initially say what you've been hearing. I'll have a young person, or I'll have a parent come to me in court and say, my young person's out of control. I want them out of my house. And then when I talk to them about the DBH Access Helpline, how I'll sit there with them on the phone and call and get an intake appointment, and how we can get them connected to mentoring services, their response is, oh, with help, I would love to have them back home. I was just at a loss for what to do. And so I think there are a lot more parents out there who are rightly frustrated because they're having a lot of difficulty accessing the supports and services they need to be successful as parents before their young person gets involved. Because as I said before, we're just kicking the can down the road. And so I think a lot more parents, when offered supports, would much rather have their young people stay at home with them than see them go off to a type of program, whether it's incarceration or not. And so I do think that's why it's a huge piece of this is the intergenerational strategy. Even something as easy as providing parents with respite care. I have a 7-year-old. I'm exhausted all the time. I need breaks, right? And often our parents, particularly our single parents, I don't know how they do it. I don't know how they manage without additional supports and services. And we're just not providing our parents with that. We focus very much on, we shift the problem to, hey, kids are the problem, and let's, do interventions geared at the kids. But the reality is, if we want to be successful, we got to support parents more than we are now.
All right, well, looks like my time is up. Thank you. I was going to ask Ms. Spain and a couple of others if they had some thoughts about that, but thank you, Chairman.
And
Thank
Councilmember
you.
Bonds,
Thank you, Councilmember Bonds. I do want to say to Mr. Ferreira, you said when you meet them in court, that's already, there's already some telling signs that something already happened or is happening. And the second piece to that is that it's not just them coming home to their home, but these parents are living in environments in which not conducive for their child to grow once they're already in the mix. And a lot of parents are saying, I think my child is going to get killed. And so that's when they're really reaching out, because they know, based on the threats and what's going on in their lives, that they have to get out of that environment, because they can have a nice home all they want, but they can't sit in the house all day, every day. They have to go to school. They have to function as a normal human being. And that's what the other part that's missing in the conversations about. Thank you, guys. Appreciate you coming. We want to follow up. You've always been great and always been informative to these panels. Want to move to our youth panel. We're going to call up Youth SC, Youth AL, and Youth DO. All right. I think we have our youth here with Youth SC. If you want to get started, you can unmute yourself.
Good afternoon. Can you hear us?
Yep.
Okay. The first youth to speak will be Youth AL.
Go right ahead.
Hello, how's everybody doing? I have one question for y'all. Could I say my name?
Well, it sounded like there was an adult you were with that's helping you and the other students in that room set it up. So you should, I don't know your age, I don't know your case, I don't know any of those things to give you the yes or no. So you should use, I guess, whatever help you have there.
Well, the adult, they just told me I couldn't say my name.
I'm gonna have to go tomorrow because they didn't have the stamps today.
Do they have the 26-cent stamps?
They.
Go ahead.
I can still talk.
Yeah, go ahead.
I would like to say, DYS employees. First, I would like to, say to all of them, thank you, because they impacted my life and, in ways that I didn't never expect them to do. I'm right here currently at the Achievement Center on MLK. And, I see people every day like Miss Fields, and they continuously provide me a reason to look toward the future in a positive way. And what I would like for y'all to improve with DYS is I feel like y'all currently have no movements for the youth to stop the word I'm trying to use, the stigma or the stereotype that the older generation is not, they not with us. I don't see no type of programs y'all have to solve that problem, because me as being a youth in DC, I feel like that's a problem everybody should. Youth, speaking from a youth standpoint. And I feel like that's something y'all can improve on.
Got it. Anything else you would like to share?
Yes, I would like to say, lastly, the family that I have gained from being with DYS is something that, I'm eternally grateful for.
Great. Thank you.
Next up, we're gonna have Youth SW.
Got it.
I'm sorry, we're gonna have you DO.
Go right ahead.
Okay.
Good afternoon. I
Okay.
first like to start off by giving y'all a little bit of background on how I came upon the program and stuff like that. So probably about a month ago, I had got into some legal trouble or whatever, and I had got put on a box and stuff. And my mother had found out about the barbering program through an Instagram post, and she recommended it to me and stuff. And at first, I didn't know if I really wanted to go or show up or just be a part of it. But after I came the first couple times, I started to see like the family environment they got here and the current helpfulness of the employees here and stuff like that. And I actually I started to get like a passion for the craft of barbering. I'm starting to like see a path for my future now. Like, I know what I want to do with myself. I got more of a direction now than I had before. So I can say it's helping with that. And it gave me something to look forward to every week. Just being around other peers my age and stuff that's trying to do something positive with themselves. And not just outside with people that's not trying to do nothing but be outside. But I feel like one thing y'all could do better is probably find better avenues to like promote and get like, get it out to more people, like let more people know what's going on. Cause I feel like if more people knew about the program and knew where it's at, like we right here in the middle of everything that's going on. So I feel like if more people knew about it, they'd probably show up or even just try do something else with themselves other than negativity, you know me? But that's all I got to say.
Got it. Thank you for that.
And then last up, we have SW.
Thank you.
SC. Oh, sorry, SC. How you doing, Mr. Trayvon?
Good. How are you?
My name is Sade. Okay, I got a rundown for y'all. My bad. I'm already told them. How you doing? My name is Sade Cunningham. And I'm a youth for DYRS. I have been under DYRS since I was in 5th grade. Now today I'm 20 years old and I'm soon to be getting off commitment. I was sent to, I was committed to do DYRS when I was 15. I was committed to DYRS when I was 15 to 21, and I was sent away to rehabilitate. So I've been in contact with Ms. Williams, Mr. Mack, Ms. Well, I call her Mom Johnson, but Ms. Johnson and other Ms. Fields and other DYRS engagement specialists. For years while becoming the young adult I am today, a lot of kids in DC do not never have the chance to get out and be a part of nonviolent events. I have had a good time there and I've always learned a lot of life lessons, a lot of life skills. On every trip, I just think there should be more of out-of-town trips on youth that's committed and some youth that are in the community. It gives us an advantage and a head start on life. They help us get jobs, they provide us with clothes when needed, they help us get GEDs, and they also provide programs. The things we need as youth, fun activities. We have fun, we have a great bond, and we always meet new people. They also have programs for the youth that have children, and they take us on trips so we can stay out of trouble. I was a trouble youth in the streets, no plan, no motive or goals. But everyone has seen something I didn't see before because of the environment. Because of the environment because of the environment I grew up in. I watched DYRS staff grow with the youth and also grow within themselves and earn higher power and better positions. I love the way they care for us, for the youth, and keep us safe and also create safe spaces for us to open up. It all starts at home, but that's what we don't speak about. The crime rate with the youth is insane and the youth need to be safe in the streets. Their trips, programs, and groups have always helped me stay out the streets and be positive, but they do what they can based on what they are given and what they are told. Sometimes they go a little further and treat us like we're their kids, but it's life. Like starting with the promise rides. They give us promise rides to dentists, doctors, and sometimes work. It helps me a lot because that's a good way to keep me up with my punctuality. A lot of the kids enjoy the family trips. It gets their family out the hood and out the streets. Also siblings. Once again, like I said, we have nonviolent events. I have a good time every time and anywhere I go with them. That's pretty much it. I graduated from a lot of their classes. I've been home for like 2 years. I've improved. I get off commitment and I get off commitment soon within this month. I haven't been rearrested since I came home because of DYRS. I graduated high school. And I just think I'm just heading in the right direction because I had the guidance from DYRS and this with the tools y'all giving them. But as far as us doing like bigger events and trips, I just feel like we have to be supervised. Like only committed kids should be able to go on trips, but then when it comes to community guests, like they got to be with us for a certain amount of days so they can figure them out and understand them and know where they're going with it. So they won't waste their time or anything will fall on them. I'm also soon, I'll be going to the Navy, March 20th to become a Navy. Yeah, I'll be going to the Navy to become a Navy. Yeah, Navy SEAL. I'm sorry, become a Navy SEAL. I went to go see lots of recruiters. I've talked to DYRS about it. They've helped me figure out what I wanted to do. They've offered anything I need. But yeah, I'm just feel like I'm an example of rehabilitated youth that's been in the system for a while, and I've been able to see the pros and cons of DYRS.
Thank you. Thank
You're
you.
welcome. You're
No
welcome, Trayvon.
problem. Anybody else there?
No, that's it for the 3U.
Thank you. I just want to say I'm extremely proud of you guys. First of all, taking leadership to be an active voice and expressing to the council and the agencies and those government witnesses and public witnesses what we need to be doing for you guys, because the reality is we need to hear from you more. We make a lot of decisions about what you should and shouldn't be doing and can't do based on policy, based on laws. But a lot of times it's a top-down approach and there's really no voice coming to us. And so with me being in this hearing, it's always imperative that we hear from young people because you all got enormous potential. I heard from even Miss SC, I'm gonna say that, who's going to the Navy, right? We're proud of you, and you are going to touch so many lives with coming outside yourself and growing since 15 to being 20, just the maturity and making better life decisions. I'm pretty sure based on you speaking today that you wasn't always at that place. I did have a few questions. I'm gonna start with AL. I want to ask you, because you said the DYS employees made an impact on your life. What ways did they make an impact on your life? Was they suggesting you come to this program? Did you go back to school?
My name Anthony Love. You know, you can call me Love. That's what people call me.
Got it.
You know, the ways they impacted my life, I don't like to, be in too much depth with it, because first, they are positive people. You know, the males and DYS are positive role models. I look back at my family and my neighborhood, and I don't find too many role models that I can compare to the employees that, help me in my team specifically. That's just one of the ways they help me. Among all the resources, they gave me that I couldn't, get from my family, get from outside of DYS.
Got it.
Along with the medicine, and the therapeutic attributes that they definitely brought to me that I never would have experienced had I not been committed.
And how do you all take advantage of the promise rides? What is that, and how do you all sign up for it and benefit from it?
So with me, when I get my work schedule, I send it to my social worker or whoever I can get in contact with, and they pre-schedule them. So every morning I just get up, get ready, it send me a notification to let me know, like, hey, your ride will be here in 10 minutes. The cab driver call me and just make sure I still want the ride. And then it arrives, it send me like a link for me to watch it and like see when they outside. So that's how I get my ride. So I let them know ahead of time, like, hey, I got a dental coming up, or I got an appointment coming up. Can you book it for this time because it's for this time? And they be like, sure. They look into it, make sure I'm not, make sure there's not no food stuff going on. And they book the rides and stuff like that. And it just help you with punctuality, like it show you and it keep you safe. You don't have to worry about running into the wrong person. It take you to plan A to plan B. You don't have to worry about, oh, I can't go to this side, I can't go to that side. That's another thing about DYRS. When you go out with them, you don't have to worry about you can't go this place and that place. You're safe with them. Like you can go where we can go wherever we want, whenever we want, and won't have to worry about nothing happening. If so, they help us, but I never experienced nothing like that or had any problems as far as safety. They always keep us safe and laughing and giggling.
I appreciate that. Now, I don't know if the other person is DO or VO.
DO.
Say it again.
D-O.
Okay, got it. Sorry. So Kyle was right. DO. I do know about the barbering program. Sorry, there on MLK. In fact, I visited there a couple of weeks ago, probably a month ago, invited by Marco Price Bay and staff. And so with you being there, were you already in DYRS? Because I know they opened it up to the public. I know you said your mom told you about it, but were you already in DYRS, or you just went there as a result of learning through your mom?
Nah, my mom, she actually just seen a post on your page about it.
Okay.
And I ain't know nothing about DYRS, no none of that. I come up here to take my yawns across the street. So it was kind of a surprise to me that it was right here and that I didn't know about it until just now. That's why I said y'all could do a better job of promoting and like getting the program out to more kids, because like I'm sure everybody come across like this area every now and then, but nobody would never know that DYRS right here unless somebody tell them about it or unless they hear about it from a third party.
What were you doing prior to?
Prior to, nothing really. I was just running the streets for real. Like I said, I had just caught another charge, my first adult charge, but I'm on youth app. So like
Okay.
it was like this is perfect timing. Like I caught my charge, I got youth app, got put on the box, and then I found DYRS, got in the barbering program. Like it's like giving me some direction.
Got it. I appreciate you saying that. I do want to know from SC, what made you choose the Navy out of the careers?
What made me choose the Navy is because I'm a Black girl from Washington, D.C., and I feel like I've been through every experience any youth could ever encounter with, as far as everything you could think of. And I think I got what it takes to be a Navy SEAL.
That's amazing.
And I want to break the record. I don't think it's no Black young female that has become a Navy SEAL, actually. So
Okay.
that's another goal. And I just,
I'm glad you're able to think outside the box. You know, a lot of youth get stuck in their environments and just don't know what to go on and what to do. And I think that it's, refreshing to hear that people want to just travel, do something that's non-traditional in this community to better themselves. And so I was excited to hear that and wanted to hear why. So thank you for that. You was about to say something else?
Yeah, I was going to say, I forgot, but I was going to give you a little background on it. All my life, I wanted to go to college. I wanted to go to college and study like veteran, be a vet and all of that, and just study certain stuff. But, college is more books and essays and not really hands-on. So once I found out about the military and the things they do and how they move and how they are more really hands-on, and I just my whole mind just shifted. The whole college life I wanted to have and experience I wanted to have, it just all shifted and changed to something that is way more important and way more hands-on. I can be basically more in the field with what something I want to do, like as far as dealing with animals and dealing with technology and just learn a different way.
Got it. I got a question for anyone who want to answer. I don't know if you all were in the hearing when there was discussion about DYS going in a new direction. In addition to what they have, they want to build a new program at a facility that's overnight that helps kids who have not got arrested yet, to get them off the streets, get them into some mentorships, wraparound services. There are some who suggest that that's not DYS responsibility, to go in another agency. But there are some who say that I don't care who do it. Like my child needs the support he or she needs now, or I might lose them to the streets. What do you all have to say to that?
What I gotta say about that, honestly, from being through everything that any youth ever experienced, yes, I really honestly think y'all should do that because I think y'all should do it because sometimes it starts at home. And parents don't know that it started at home, but it could be them or it could be who the parent or who the kid is surrounding themselves with. So if your kid got a plan every day after school, they come to the building y'all build for them. They do programs and they liking it and they taking trips based off of their behavior. Yes, they're going to enjoy it. They're going to want to come more. But you also got to think, if y'all about to build a whole new building for a set of youth, the budget will go skyrocket high. Because at this point, it's just not for the committed youth that's in the system that has gotten into trouble. It's for youth that's outside of the system, which means they can leave at any given time. They can act up any given time. They can, some kids might be good, some kids might not, but that's your job to create the safe space for the kids to feel comfortable enough for they won't have to act up, for they won't go into the streets and do something crazy. They need to be able to, if they have problems outside of the streets, that's where y'all come in part. Like, you can come here and talk to me about it. You can come here and do that. Most of the time, a lot of kids get into the system because they cry out for help and nobody hears them. Nobody see them. They just think it's ADHD. They think it's anger management, when it's really not that. They just expressing their feelings in a way you guys can see and hear them. And it be too late because they probably react off of emotion, or they under the pressure and then boom, they under the system. So
I just want piggyback on what she just said, like me just speaking from experience. I know that like a lot of times when you get into trouble with the law, it ain't necessarily that, oh, I just wanted to go out and do this, woo, or a lot of times it's more so, or I feel like I got to, like, or I gotta take this from this person because I'm hungry, or I gotta do this to this person because I don't got no other option. Like, it ain't nothing else for me to do. Like, that's the only way to get what I need. But if you give the youth an opportunity to get what they need before they feel like they gotta go do something, then I feel like that'll help a lot of people out. Like, and that's just me speaking from experience. Like, I know if I had that opportunity or somebody put that in front of me before I caught my first charge, they give you a meal every day, they do this, they give you direction, they got programs, stuff like that. You go get your GED, you don't gotta go to school. And I had people I was in tour with that went to my school, like, you don't gotta go to school and be around people that's you got tension with, stuff like that. Like, just all different avenues to just keep people safe and out the streets and doing something productive with themselves. Like, I feel like if I knew about it sooner, I'd be in a better position.
And I got something to say. So I think, first of all, that's a terrible idea because that's a terrible idea on y'all behalf, because I feel like y'all forgetting the real people y'all trying to help. It ain't people that's not been locked up. It's people that actually been locked up. And, y'all still facing problems with the people y'all supervising now. You got to tackle them first before you start worrying about people that haven't been locked up, because, they facing different problems. The police, first, is a big problem that any child got to go through. And, somebody who haven't went through that and they under the same services, like, you splitting the pie when really y'all should just work on the umbrella and just keep everything under DYS, not no other company, and just try to expand y'all promotions and the programs and try to, do it on a bigger scale.
So let me speak to the budget real quick. So I do want to shine light on that. DYS had up to over 1,000 youth in its programs with less money. DYS has the money it ever had in DC history, and probably had the least amount of youth it's servicing through its services right now. So it's not an issue of money. It's an issue of priority and trying to listen to you guys about what should be done with that money, because DC has the money.
I feel like
Say we got a friend. He never been in trouble. We go on a trip after Vegas. They said he's out to Vegas, but he wanna go and he wanna leave the body be anybody. You wanna want him to go?
I feel like that in the community, a lot of people just need options. Like, a lot of people don't got a whole lot of options. And just
Everybody not going through the same thing too. Like some kids just don't want to listen to their parents, and some kids don't have parents. Like you got parents, but they're not physically there. Like everybody is different. Like some parents got kids and just
got kids.
Yeah, got kids and just got them. Some parents out here take care of their kids, but the kid want to do what they want to do and don't want to listen to their parents. Some people got parents, but they got drug habits or certain stuff going on. Like it's more than what y'all think it is. It's not just about the youth. Some parents gonna reach out because they see their child getting into trouble in the streets and they think they might, you know what I'm saying, end up in a wrong predicament. But it's all about, oh, and I love, yeah.
What I just do?
Cause
No,
you know, some families won't even direct their children, you know, y'all way.
Try to get the job. Yeah, so it's different, y'all. That's what I'm saying. Like, in order for kids, for you to understand what's really wrong with a child, for me growing up where people took me wrong at was saying who I was around or where I came from, and they judged me based off that, upon that. And that's where a lot of adults go wrong. Like people still today, oh, I know your history, I know your background. That don't stand, that don't mean anything. Like people grow overnight, people grow every day. So you might know me back 10 years later and think I'm just this person, but now I could be a whole totally different person. You know, a lot of people have kids and change their life around. It's just a lot of different, it's more, this one meeting we will not be able to give you all the things you need and want to hear. But from me, honestly, DYRS, y'all have a big platform, but it need to expand bigger.
Yeah.
Y'all need to divide the youth that are not in trouble and the youth that are in trouble that can relate in two different separate areas. Now, I understand when y'all have some events, y'all can combine us together, or when y'all have some trips, combine us together. But even though a kid hasn't been through the system yet, that don't mean they haven't been through. Police-wise, system-wise, kids go through stuff and don't even know nothing about the jail system until like they on the streets and they get caught and they get locked up. Then they get in the system and their parents not gonna help because
for whatever reason.
yeah, like they just think they all been bad whole time. It started at home. You wasn't helping, you're not guiding them. So they come into the streets and they get into the streets and they get in the system. Whole time they just need therapy. They need a mentor. They need to go out the city. They need to go out to eat. Yeah, some kids just need a meal. Some kids be out here doing what they doing because they need a meal. They need a place to stay. A whole bunch of stuff. Like the kids just need guidance in every area, not just one, not just behavior, like hygiene, everything, females and males. Like teach them how to be men, how to budget, how to raise their kids, how to raise themselves. Like females.
In order to really help people the right way, they gotta qualify for them type of resources. So it gotta be specific things that they going through to be able to even receive them type of resources.
But if they don't have the resources, they can't go nowhere. That's why I said have resources for everything. It's females.
I think both. I mean, all you guys' points are valid, and like someone said, there's no cookie cutter answer for each individual youth, and what may work for one may not work for the other, and so we have to look at how we can better utilize government resources to support families and strengthen families. You guys have been remarkable. I'm getting comments in the comment section and online. People are rooting for you guys. They're happy to hear from you guys. You are so intelligent and have so much experience and knowledge. And I'm just excited that you all were able to join us today. It's been very informative, and I would like to follow up with you guys. I don't know if you know, but we're doing a youth hearing that's coming up, and I'm posting on the screen. But the youth hearing will be February the 25th at 12 noon. At 2730 MLK Avenue. So just up the street from there at the RLYA Center. We want youth and young adults to speak, because like this one forum in 15 minutes, even though you guys are so remarkable, it does not encompass what really need to be talked about from youth perspective, and addressing a holistic community involving process and giving youth a voice. And so again, February the 25th, myself along with Councilmember Brooke Pinto from Ward 2 will be hosting a youth hearing right here in Ward 8 at at 12 noon, 2730 MLK. I hope you guys can join us. Like, Miss Fields got my cell phone, and half of the staff, they got my cell phone. You can send me a text today. I'll respond back, and guys can communicate with me to figure out how I can be helpful. But I would love to have you all sign up to
You
speak.
can also always come down to the Big Chair and MLK.
Yeah, every day.
Yeah. You and Mayor Browse. Both of y'all, I got something to say to Mayor Browse.
Come see us in person.
Well, I've been down there. I just was there. That's how one of the gentlemen said he got the fly. I got to do more posting then, since he got in the program, because something I post on my social media tells me I need to post a little bit more. That's great. I'm glad that worked in that way. But yep, I would love to come down. I just was there not too long ago. But anyway, I can be supportive. Yo.
So it's crazy that you saying that you have a youth hearing coming up. I actually did a youth councils meeting, and I made it to the Washington Post. It was like,
oh wow,
if you can look it up too, but I made it to the Washington Post about the violence in the community with youth and how they can improve. They wanted to do what you're doing now, basically hit the youth out, and nobody didn't want to speak up, so I spoke up. But like I said again, this one meeting will not be able to we won't be able to give you all the answers you're looking for, but hopefully at this hearing, when we see you, I'll be able to give you, I'll pinpoint out everything a youth needs and not everything a youth like wants, like more so, but on both sides, youth that's not community and youth in the community. Like I said, again, it starts at home. Like that's the main source of my everything. It starts at home. Anytime a kid goes into the streets, it's because they don't want to listen or they don't get the support they need. So it's either the two. Is they don't get the support they need at home, so they come to the streets, and it leads you two ways: dead, in jail, and some kids get saved. And they rehabilitate and they change their life, or some kids, they start off good and they end off bad. But thank you.
Thank you. Shoot, you made my day. You guys made my day just hearing from you guys. And so we also want to build a strategic plan for youth. We want to not just hear from you and say we're listening, but build out how we can be supportive. And with the budget, with some of the programming, with some of the ideas. And you got the answer to say the greatest influence on a young person is another young person. And so we believe that you got the answers we're looking for, because most of what we've been doing over the years is not working. And so we got to do something different. And Sandy is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different outcome. Thank you, guys. We're going to move on to our next panel, but definitely Ms. Fields got my number, my information. Text me, stay in touch. Any way I can be helpful, let me know. God bless.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. For our next panel, we have Mark Jordan. Okay, Mark. Easy Street. Marco Price. Sandra Seegers. And Alexandra Fields. Mark, go right ahead, Mark.
Good afternoon, Chairman White and members of the committee. My name is Mark Jordan, and I am the Executive Director of the Office of Independent Juvenile Justice Facilities Oversight. This office was created in 2021 pursuant to a settlement agreement that ended the 35-year-old Jerry M. class action lawsuit. I am here today to testify regarding several topics pertaining to facility conditions, specifically population levels, facility staffing levels, and incident reporting, all of which are foundational to safety and security. There's a long-standing and documented history of pervasive overcrowding at both the YSC and New Beginnings, which historically led to increased violence and compromised services, such as inadequate medical, behavioral health, and educational services. Fortunately, in the years preceding the termination of the Jerry M. lawsuit, DYRS and its partner agencies reduced population levels at both facilities. I'm pleased to report that population levels at the YFC have not exceeded the facility's 88-bed capacity since June 2017, and at New Beginnings, the facility has not exceeded its 60-bed capacity in nearly a decade. While DYRS has operated below population capacities for a sustained period, historical trends caution against complacency. The YSC population in particular is prone to rapid and significant changes, influenced not only by arrest rates, but also by prosecutorial and judicial decision-making practices. DYRS and its partner agencies should closely monitor population trends to identify population pressures before they result in facility overcrowding. This office is working with DYRS to make population data more accessible to stakeholders and on an online platform, which we expect to be available in the coming months. I now turn to staffing levels. The greatest safeguard to youth and staff safety in secure facilities is direct supervision by an appropriate number of qualified and trained staff. Prior to JREM's termination, DYRS met the lawsuit's staffing requirements, which were designed to ensure that sufficient staff were assigned to locations throughout the facilities around the clock. In February of last year, this office issued a report documenting that staffing levels at both facilities had decreased substantially, and that a large percentage of staffing complements were filled with staff who are not available for duty, which has a direct impact on youth and staff safety and reduces youth access to core services and out of cell time. Now, a year later, staffing shortages are more acute, both in terms of the number of YDR staff employed and staff deployed on a daily basis within the facilities. Currently, the agency's secure staffing complement is at lows that we have not observed in nearly a decade. Because of staffing shortages, security posts previously required under JREM routinely go unstaffed. And perhaps the starkest change in staff deployment is DYRS's repudiation of a JREM staffing requirement to maintain a minimum of 2 YDRs supervising youth on housing units. That requirement is now treated as an aspiration, and the agency instead has adopted a standard of maintaining a minimum of 1 YDR to supervise every 8 youth, a practice that frequently results in a single YDR supervising groups of youth, reducing direct supervision and increasing risks to both youth and staff. Complicating staffing issues even further, recently both the superintendent and deputy superintendent of the YSC separated from the agency. And as of last week, which you know, DYRS is without a permanent director. It is time for the administration both to put permanent leadership in place and simultaneously to consider more creative incentives to recruit and or retain staff. Beginning at the end of last year, in an effort to meet facility staffing needs, non-YDR staff were allowed to work in security posts at the facilities, partnering with and supporting YDR staff while on duty. While these non-YDR staff were trained in DYRS's use of force policy and CPR, they were not otherwise trained on the full responsibilities of the YDR position and associated agency policies and procedures. While the populations of the YSC and New Beginnings are low, because the size of the workforce has diminished and compounded by the volume of staff who are unavailable for duty, if the population of either or both facilities were to increase significantly, it would place extreme pressure on the agency's ability to operate the facility safely. Finally, DYRS's most elemental responsibility is to ensure the health and safety of youth in their custody for the duration of their confinement. JREM included a goal requiring DYRS to collect complete and accurate data regarding critical incidents and assaults. In October of last year, this office issued a report concerning critical incidents and assaults, which documented that since JREM ended, DYRS has done a commendable job maintaining an incident reporting system that includes routine data collection, data validation, and trend reporting. And while the agency must continue to enhance its existing system, including improving the accuracy of incident categorization and trend reporting, a quality system is in place. This office recommended to DYRS that validated incident trend data be made available to the public, but DYRS has not yet made it available, and we will continue to encourage them to do so. My office reviews incident reports daily, and I do want to mention a concerning trend that has come to light recently. At both facilities, but particularly at New Beginnings, there's been a recent influx of contraband, and particularly illicit substances, which have been found by staff through security searches and drug testing. DYRS management is aware of the problem, and they're taking steps to prevent the introduction of drugs into the facilities. Nevertheless, the youth in DYRS's custody, many of whom struggle with drug abuse or addiction in the community, must not have access to recreational drugs while confined, and DYRS must do everything it can to prevent their introduction into the facilities. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today, and I'd be pleased to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. We will also have questions in a few. Easy Street Academy, DC.
Yes, good afternoon. How are you, Chairman, and the rest of the panel? A pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me. I just wanted to, first of all, commend the youth that we heard earlier, because I just hope that everyone heard exactly what they said in regards to what their needs are. They spoke extremely eloquently about what it is they need. And one of the things that I'd like to share with you is DYRS is home to a lot of youth. It is home. A lot of the things that we're doing currently at DYRS, as far as the environment of love, of peace, joy, happiness, they're not getting at home. So they come to DYRS. So I began my work with the Academy DC at DYRS probably in 2019. And we struggled and went through COVID, and now we're, at the endemic now. And one of the things that I think that I'm glad that we have allowed community youth to be able to use these services. I think that the gentleman, Mr. Ferreira, said earlier on the last panel, he is absolutely correct. We should be in preventative mode. I think for a long time, and it's not just to dig on our city, but nationally, we've been just reactionary and not been, we wait for a problem to happen instead of trying to prevent these things before they get this bad. So I think that the investment needs to be there to make sure that we're helping the family and the youth before we get into these problems. One of the things that I do like about DYRS is they do have specialists there to deal with trauma. The trauma word has been used several times in this discussion. Shout out to Dr. A over there, who did an awesome job. Me and her have had several conversations in regards to some of the young men and women that she works with there at DYRS, dealing directly with their trauma, and we communicate to be able to help them the best way that we can. The other piece that I think that's also that needs to be said is DYRS is making progress. You don't hear, we always hear the bad things, but you don't hear about the success stories. You've heard one or two on this call earlier about the young lady going to the Navy, but two of our success stories just 2 weeks ago at MLK, there was a young man, but I'll just call him Teef. And the young man has a brother who's in my music program, and he was getting sent off to college. He came by DYRS MLK to see Janae and his credible messenger, and he was picking up everything to take to college with him. Everything meaning coats, books, bags, deodorant, and all these other things that were necessities that he would need for college. And when I saw that happening, I stepped to the young man. I was like, hey, man, give me your Cash App. Let me give you this love offering. And that's the beautiful thing about DYRS. It's a family atmosphere, and the love is there. And we team up together to be able to do whatever it is that we can to be able to help the youth when the need arises. Another young person that I work with that I won't name, I'll just call her Dee. Dee came to me and started recording songs in our studio as a form of expressive therapy, probably in 2020. She was there, she would be consistent. Then she went away for a little while. She had family problems. She had safe passage issues, being able to travel from uptown to come downtown. And so she wasn't able to make it. But then recently she came back. I found out that Dee had a job. I was like, what? Dee has a job. She is working. I was, oh my goodness. And just to see her development and growth over about a 2.5 year span was amazing to see. And I have to give DYRS for the credit. I have to give them the credit where credit is due, because one thing that you got to understand is it's about consistency. And even if the youth doesn't show up, the love, the encouragement still needs to be there, regardless if we've seen them or not. I think my time's up, but I'll just also end on this, okay? So a couple of the young people talked about travel. I have a travel program that I do at DYRS. Well, actually, I got a grant from the OST, and our home base is MLK. It's called the Making Moves Travel Program, developed by Academy DC and myself to be able to help the young people get passports so they can be able to travel abroad. As a matter of fact, we kicked this thing off in January. February 21st through the 24th, we'll be having training at DYRS MLK. On the 25th, we travel on a day trip to New York City. We go down there, we get sturdy downtown, let them dance, let them take some videos and have fun and eat in Brooklyn at Junior's. And then we come back the same day. But in April, we're going to Atlanta because we know that changing environments are very important. And that's why I'm glad that I work with the agency like DYRS that understands the importance of getting our youth out of the District of Columbia to see new things. If we want, just like you just said a little bit ago, Chairman, you have to do some different things to shake things up to be able to get their attention, to engage them, to meet them where they are, so you can be able to get their attention, to teach them the important life skills. And that is what we are doing right now at DYRS. And I want to thank them for having me, for me to be able to be a part of the great work that they're doing in our city. Thank you. That's my time. I got to go because I'm headed to DYRS to my program right now at 4:30.
Man, we appreciate you, brother Easy Street, man. All the work you've been doing over the years, man, being consistent and in the trenches, man, giving youth the outlet and a positive experience and really changing their lives, man. I appreciate you.
God bless you and God bless everybody else on the panel. And I like those glasses, bro.
Thank you, man. $8 up MLK.
Exactly. There you go.
Thank you. I don't see Marco Price Bay here from the barbering program. If he joins, please elevate him. We're going to move to Ward 8's own Sandra S.S. Seekers.
Thank you. The young people did an excellent job, and they continue that way. It can be nothing but good. And thank you, council member, for having them on. And I'm glad they went before me so I could hear them. They did a great job. I'm Sandra S.S. Seegers, a Ward 8 resident and a member of CRAVE, Concerned Residents Against Violence. CRAVE's main concern is violent crime prevention and intervention. DYRS is one of the agencies we have been communicating with. The prescribed duties and goals at DYRS are aimed at rehabilitating youth and support to the youth's family. DYRS is seeking applications for youth programming. You may go to their website to apply. DYRS is instituting a much needed program that will focus on youth who do not have a criminal record but are headed in that direction. John Mean will oversee the program. It should start in a few weeks. This is one of the best programs This is one of the best programs that could be established. This was done under the direction of Director Hillary Carnes, who has since been removed by the mayor as of last Friday. To remove Hillary is unconscionable. Was done for no apparent reason except that they are moving in another direction. Hillary was already moving in the right direction. She was hired 18 months ago. She had the experience needed and to me have shown that she was perfect for the position. Hillary was the deputy administrator of the DC Department of Human Service before coming to DYRS. She helped create the Mayor's Capital City Fellows Program, CCFP. This program is a mayoral initiative to attract recent graduates of master's degree programs who are interested in public service work with the district government. They can apply for this up until March 31st by going to their website. My request to you, council member, to make sure the budget is enough to give adequate services to the youth who are troubled and headed to trouble. The preventative and intervention programs are extremely important to keep them from going bad. That ends my statement, and thank you for your hearing today.
Thank you. Yes, we'll hear now from Ms. Alexandra Fields, Council for Children of DC.
Good afternoon, Chairman White, members of the Committee on Recreation, Libraries, and Youth Affairs. My name is Alexandra Fields, a Senior Manager at CASA for Children of DC, and we are honored to have the opportunity to testify today. CASA DC recognizes the vital importance of rehabilitation services for our youth in the juvenile legal system. and particularly opportunities for restorative justice and transition support. We are proud that for the first time, CASA DC now has a formalized partnership with DYRS to provide programming to teenage girls at the MLK Achievement Center, and are eager to build upon and strengthen that work. For 20 years, CASA DC has provided compassionate trauma-informed care for court-involved youth in DC. CASA stands for Court-Appointed Special Advocates, specially trained volunteers who provide mentorship and best advocacy to court-involved youth. Through CASA DC's original mission, when founded in 2002, focused on supporting foster youth, in our years of service to DC's youth, the intersection of the needs between foster youth and juvenile involved youth became plainly clear. The foster care to prison pipeline is a reality that too many of our youth face. Youth who have experienced abuse and/or neglect are more likely to be arrested as a juvenile, offend more frequently, and begin at younger ages than peers. Approximately 80% of juvenile justice youth have experienced trauma similar to their counterparts in the child welfare system. Understanding this impact of childhood trauma on juvenile involved youth is imperative to providing youth with appropriate support in preventing recidivism. Youth have experienced trauma, face lower academic achievement, and increased risk of future unemployment, homelessness, and high-risk behavior. CASA DC's Bridges program formed in 2019, and since that time has supported nearly 150 juvenile justice youth. Youth committed to DYRS can significantly benefit from the support of a volunteer BGA. The presence and involvement of caring and supportive adult is a known protective factor against juvenile justice youth. And I will end with CASA DC can be an additional support for DYRS youth, improving outcomes for futures. We look forward to future opportunities to partner with DYRS, and we are particularly excited about DYRS's request for applications to provide support services to at-risk youth ages 10 to 14. CASA DC has been working with this population for over 20 years. We know with the opportunity to partner with DYRS to serve this population, we could make a true difference together. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I want to jump back to Mark Jordan real quick, if you are still here. Yeah, Mark, let me ask you this. What kind of population trends do you suggest the DYRS tracked?
DYRS has a database that they maintain, and it maintains historical data on all of the youth housed every day. However, it's not necessarily simple to sort of look at how the population is changing over time by statuses. So what we're recommending is to create a platform where you can visualize population data over time. So you could say, I want to know what the population of the YSC looked like from 2020 to the present date. I want it broken down by legal status. And so you could see the population levels, but you could also see admissions rates. So you could see, are there more detained populations being admitted to the YSC, which might tell you something about whether anything in the juvenile justice system is changing. Are there more arrests? Are there more prosecutions? It's a good place to start to look at juvenile justice practice. And we would also look at lengths of stay. So being able to visualize how long do youth who are admitted to the YSC, to New Beginnings, how long are they incarcerated for? Is that changing? Is it staying the same? That's the sort of data we envision.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I got some sirens. There it is. I did want to know, there has been a lot of turnover in the agency, not just with the director, but with YDRs. I don't know if you saw that, but do you think that one YDR supervising 8 youth is sufficient in your line of work over the course of the last couple of years?
Well, I'll say this. Staffing was one of the single most discussed issues in Jerry M that went on for a very long time. And in Jerry M, there were a series of staffing requirements that were painstakingly negotiated. And those staffing requirements were very clear about the number of YDRs that had to be present. And there were explicit discussions about whether or not one YDR was sufficient. The way that those negotiations ended was that no, one YDR was not sufficient to supervise youth. And there were incidents. There was a very notorious one that happened, I would say probably 2012 at New Beginnings, where a YDR was working alone on a midnight shift at New Beginnings, was in fact assaulted and locked into a cell. Fortunately, ultimately, he was all right. At the time, he was injured seriously, and 2 youth did escape. So that was sort of the most serious end of what can happen. But lots of things can happen when one YDR is supervising a group of youth. And so it's a risky situation.
Got it. Let me jump down real quick because you have some serious concerns that we are going to be raising to the agency. I want to go to Marco Price Bay. Marco, are you here? You can jump right in real quick because nobody facing some time constraints. Go ahead, Marco. Who are you? And what is good?
Yes, my name is Marco Price Bay. I'm the barber instructor for the program Edges Barbershop. It's been pretty good working with DYS. I've been working with DYS for a while. This is my first time working with the Achievement Center. It's a little bit different, but it's still the same when it comes to serving and helping the youth. One of my concerns, major concerns, is dealing with a lot of kids that are dealing with trauma, right? We don't just cut hair, we do life skills component. And so when kids come in and they didn't experience, some trauma, or that's something that I'm not specialized to deal with. I feel detached in a way because I'm not able to really, help them in an area where I can't really reach them. And so that's the only concern I got because I deal with it a lot. And I think that we need to have somebody come in there that teaches about drug use. I know a lot of them youngins, they starting to, deal with different kind of drugs and stuff like that, and they don't know the consequences behind those drugs. I know they do have spaces where they got to do a Narcan, things like that, but I think it just need to be an awareness, a drug use awareness thing, because a lot of kids, they rush into the drugs trying to escape that reality. And other than that, it's good. DYS has the program that they have is very effective and it's very helpful, especially kids like come in, a lot of them be hungry. They don't have food to eat. Ms. Williams and them make sure that the kids eat every day. They look out for the kids. They really it's always been like a family environment with DYS, but I think it's some real key components that need to be addressed. And one of them is definitely dealing with that mental trauma and, giving them an outlet to talk about the pain, the suffering and things that they, might be going through. Yep, but that's about it.
Thank you. I ran into one of the young men that was in the program the last time that I came in front of my house. He was like, man, I remember you came. So it was good that we was able to interact with those young men and even young ladies that were there. And we look forward to doing supporting that. And the flyer you sent me, one of the young men joined, I don't know if you heard that earlier, but he joined the bobbing program from the flyer that you sent me. So I think that was critical to helping that young man get some opportunities and exposure to change his life around. He said he'd been coming down there every day, but never knew about it. Right across the street from his PO. So,
yeah, thanks for the support, also, Councilmember White, because with that one visit that you had, it changed the whole program around. It did, it got out and reached a lot of people that I couldn't reach. So again, I appreciate your support, continued support,
Yeah.
and your
Yeah, and I
commitment.
want to figure out a way to do it beyond me. I mean, I would like to help out, but just as an agency, we have to figure out a way to get more out to the community because, I would love to help and I help any way I can, but the DYS has a communications division or should be connected with someone in communication. It's a government, so we should be able to communicate with the public. We don't always get it right. I don't always get it right, but we had to figure that out sooner than later.
All right, thanks again, though. I appreciate you.
Thank you for your work.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to jump real quick to Ms. Seegers. In your work with Crave, addressing violence in the city and working with Director Kearns, you spoke briefly about the prevention center. How do you think that the prevention center is or isn't helpful to help deter the crime in the city?
That's the main thing we need, deterrence. And if the young people are listening at all, if we can prevent them or intercede when they're on that track, it's going to work and is working perfectly. It's just that it's not enough workers to reach them all. That's the main thing. We don't have the capacity to cover the entire city, mainly Ward 8 is the capacity. But the money definitely needs to be in the budget to get more workers. And did you know that in Ward 8, the one's office has seven locations. It's supposed to be 2 persons to each location. That's not enough. Instead, they have 9 openings. So they need more right there, but they really need more than 2 per location. And it's not under this agency, but they should work together. And intervention and prevention should be what we're aiming at.
Got it. Let me ask you this. Are you in communication with any other leadership of DYS about the rollout of this particular program? Have you seen the format and what is proposed to do?
John Mean was on the first Friday meeting. He explained it.
Okay.
And Joy Scott,
great.
as you know, is having problems with her grandson. She's waiting for the program to start. That'll be the first one to get to the children before they get in trouble. Her grandson was a perfect candidate for it. So from what he's saying, it's going to work nicely if they're given the proper amount of staff to run it. And they even looking for a name for it. So I put it on Facebook. If you have a name for this, that's fine. So he's open for a name for the program. And I do believe if they catch these children when they're on the edge of committing a crime, I think it'll solve a lot of problems. So I am in touch with John Mee.
Got it. Let me ask Ms. Fields this. How long have you, Ms. Fields, been partnering with DYS?
We started our programming in November, so we're fairly new.
Have you existed prior to partnering with DYS?
Yes.
Okay. How does people or youth or young adults get into your program?
Well, through a referral. So the specific programming we're doing at DYS is called Girl Circle. So to Mr. Bay's point, that therapeutic approach, that psychoeducational approach for girls and girl identifying youth. And so they would just go to our website and you can either email myself or fill out a referral link and it'll take you to Girl Circle, which is that group that we do.
What is the website?
CasaDC.org.
Okay.
So that's
you stated earlier on the panel, there needs to be hear more success stories. And I know that was also stated before from Easy Street. How do you suggest we hear these stories and get these stories out and pretty much elevate these to a high level?
That's a great question. And I think one thing that actually Easy had partnered with us on is just making a video and posting it on Instagram. And, that got a lot of traction. And it was just something that took us like 20 minutes to do. but really got the word out. I would agree, there needs to be a lot more foot trafficking for these great programs that we have. One thing that we did was a food giveaway, and we partnered with Mr. Bay. He came and did haircuts for our kids as our families got food for the holidays. So we have such a strong family unit within DYRS, and we need to share that with the community.
And what locations are you providing services with DYRS? Where?
Right now, just the MLK Achievement Center, once a week.
Okay. Okay. And how's participation been?
It's been minimal. It is increasing, but we need just a lot more girls, a lot more teenage girls. I saw the mayor did put our programming in one of her newsletters, which I thought was great, but we really need to reach the youth. And a lot of that is word of mouth. And so it's on us too to be a lot more creative, to attract the youth and meet them where we are, whether that's us going to the community and speaking at schools or what have you. I think it'll continue to increase once the youth, tell their friends, because again, community youth can take advantage of these services.
Yes, I think one of the things that was talked about early on in the hearing was about these the youth team meetings. I know they have different names over the years, but they have these meetings upon their release of the facility. Are you plugged in with Progressive Life Center at all?
Yes, very much so. They actually kind of oversee our work there and work as the liaison between us and DYRS.
Okay. Because I know they were integral in helping get referrals through agency and the community to organizations like yours.
Yes.
And the
We are in
schools. I mean, I
communication
work
with them.
in schools in various capacities, and the need is there. And that doing this work without saying, we just got to figure out a way to get them there, and we have not figured out how to way to keep them there outside of incentivizing them and just showing that you love and care about them, because the relationship can keep them when the money runs out, and you know how that go being on the front line.
Absolutely. And one thing I think too is just sharing that Promise Cab is available to get youth there. Getting that out, because a lot of the barriers is just transportation, getting them there and back home safely. So getting that word out would help as well.
Got it. And if you can send me a flyer to my office, we'll get it posted on our sites as well. Thank you for your work with
Absolutely.
youth and young adults in the district.
You're very welcome.
Ms. Seegers, are you raising your hand to make a comment?
Yes, I think I gave you the backwards numbers. We should have 14 interrupters in Ward 8. They have 9 filled and 5 vacancies. I think I did it in reverse.
You talking about organizations or staffing? What are you talking about?
Staffing, under one's office, staffing, out there in the community, the actual violence interrupter. The staff, the field workers, the one that's out there.
Okay,
No.
you talking about not care the streets, you're talking about the ones that's granted through the one's office. You're saying that the organization that's contracted, they're not fully staffed up to they got 14, so 5 are unfilled, is what you're saying.
Yes.
Okay. And it's over several different organizations, or is that one agency, one organization?
It's one in Ward 8. J&J Monitoring. As far as I know, that's the only one under them in Ward 8.
Okay, I'm not sure who Mr. Fields is under on Good Hope Road. I have to look into that.
Because what's her name? Dion. I think Dion's under the AG, because I had a meeting. She was there at the AG's meeting.
So I don't think Dion is doing the violence interruption work no more. I'm not sure when the last time you spoke to Far Southeast in relation to that, but I think they have stopped doing contracting to do that work.
I haven't spoken to her recently, and that's what the community asking, where are the interrupters? I think they call it everybody, the one's office and Curtis Streets. They call all of them interrupters, and they want to know where are they. They don't see them, and I guess they're not there. And
so I brought this up in my last meeting in the community We had at Johnson last week, and so I continue to beat that drum to make sure they are present. Because if the community don't know they exist, and that's hard for them to be effective, because people
Right.
want to know they're there in the community and feeling safe. So I do know that there's a conversation from the deputy mayor for public safety. We have a new deputy mayor, Ms. Apaya, that's pushing people to be out during the day and present. But I do hear pushback from the violence interrupters saying they're trying to do the work, but that's not the work to stand outside all day with no vest and no gun to stand outside like security guards. They actually want to be tasked with doing real work and help people get jobs and sitting down with people doing groups and things like that. So they're working through the kinks. I know just as early as last week, she just started a week and a half ago. So I know there's a lot of conversation trying to figure out what's the happy medium to ensure they have presence in the community. So I'm listening and pushing as well.
Well, I'm glad you said that because she's going to be on First Friday next month. And I'll also say that to her as well.
Great. Thank you guys for being remarkable today. We want to move to our government portion of the
Thank you.
hearing. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you guys for your work. If we can elevate the government witnesses, Trey Standback, who's the interim director for DYRS, and Adam Al-Jabari, who is the chief of staff.
Good afternoon,
Mr.
Council
Standback.
Member.
Good afternoon. As you know, it's the practice of this committee to swear in all government witnesses. If you can start by raising your right hand. Do you swear or affirm on the penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give to this committee is the truth and nothing but the whole truth?
I do.
Adam, Mr. Al-Jabari, will you be speaking as well?
I may, sir. I may, council member, depending
All
on.
right, we got it.
Okay.
All right, got it. Mr. Standback, you can go ahead with your opening statement.
Thank you. First, Council Member, I'd like to acknowledge the youth and the advocates who spoke earlier today. We look forward to continuing our work with them and are just encouraged by the work that our young people are doing. Good afternoon, Chairperson White, members and staff of the Committee on Recreation, Libraries, and Youth Affairs. I am Trey Standback, Interim Director of the Department of Youth Rehabilitation Services, and I'm joined here today by Adam Al-Jabari, DYRS Chief of Staff. We're grateful for the opportunity to appear before you today on behalf of DYRS and Mayor Muriel Bowser and her administration. Before I begin, I would like to thank Mayor Bowser for her leadership and for entrusting me with the responsibility of leading DYRS forward. And I am truly humbled and honored by the opportunity. I would also like to thank City Administrator Donahue, Deputy Mayor Apia, and colleagues at DYRS and around the district for their continued leadership, guidance, and support. One lesson we constantly teach the youth under our care is that while you cannot always control what happens to you in life, you can control how you respond to situations you face. Last week, Hillary Cairns stepped down from her role as director of DYRS. Director Cairns demonstrated a passion for youth and should be commended for her many years of service to the district's youth and their families. We wish Director Cairns all the best, and we know that she will remain committed to improving the lives of young people. For the rest of us at DYRS, we must understand that change in life is inevitable, but it is up to us to refocus, redouble our efforts, and resume our commitment to excellence. We must acknowledge that the effort we put into our work is in our control. And we must also understand that what we control directly contributes to the safety of the district and to the long-term success of the young people under our care. Over the last year, we have been encouraged by the work we are doing to provide safe and engaging programming for youth throughout the district. Partnering with other government agencies, nonprofit organizations, community leaders, and dedicated families continues to give our young people the best chances to succeed after concluding their journey with DYRS. As you're aware, Councilmember White, our work is challenging, but we greatly benefit from having resilient staff and community partners who create opportunities for the youth and families we serve. Meeting youth where they are and drawing on their strengths has always been a catalyst for our agency's success. Every day we work to reimagine our programs and our services in order to better support youth and families. Together, we have achieved significant milestones that reflect our mission to empower our DYRS community through a continuum of care. Some of our notable FY22 accomplishments include educational gains. Many of our youth committed to DYRS have experienced significant educational challenges before their involvement with the agency. But regardless of the systemic issues contributing to these challenges, it is still our charge to prepare the youth under our care for a world that requires education to advance in this society. This is why I'm pleased to report that 14 of our young people either graduated from high school or received their high school equivalency. This is our highest graduation rate since 2016, and 8 of these young people are now enrolled in college or in college courses. Over the past 8 years, our Achievement Center has provided the foundation for youth to develop holistically and become leaders within their communities. Providing them with safe spaces to learn and explore who they are as individuals has led to the expansion of our Achievement Center program offerings. Currently, we offer programs in music production, barbering, cosmetology, construction, information technology, tattoo artistry, and microblading. Additionally, our Volt Academy, which is a 7-week vocational program, ensures that student trainees are ready for in-demand careers. The Academy employs experts in a variety of fields to teach youth the necessary skill sets to thrive as professionals. Their training focuses on preparing youth to pass industry-recognized exams and to develop the necessary skill sets that create employment opportunities. Our programs are offered Monday through Thursday, beginning at 4:30 p.m. at our MLK and 458th Street locations. We have hot meals and computers for youth and families accessing the centers, and offer transportation to and from our centers via the city's Promise Ride program. Our centers also have service hubs for our mental health services and parent support groups. Achievement Center staff are readily available beginning at 9 a.m. Monday through Friday to meet with youth and families who visit their location. We also expanded the Credible Messenger program through our collaboration with sister agencies such as DC Public Libraries, DC Public Schools, and the Child and Family Services Agency. On average, the Credible Messengers serve approximately 360 youth a day throughout the district. These Credible Messengers play a key role in violence prevention and youth mentoring. We also moved our Title 16 youth from Youth Services Center to New Beginnings to ensure their access to more extensive programming. Our Title 16 youth had been placed at YSC, or the Youth Services Center, prior to the pandemic. YSC is structurally intended to be a short-term detention center for youth awaiting trial or awaiting placement elsewhere. As such, YSC has limited outdoor space for recreation and limited indoor space for programming. Conversely, the campus-like setting at New Beginnings gives the young people an opportunity to engage in additional workforce development like culinary, HVAC, horticulture, automotive, and other physical activities, including flag football, jogging, and basketball. I would be remiss if I did not discuss our concerns surrounding public safety for our youth and our residents. While youth committed to the district are not the primary drivers of juvenile crime, we are still acutely aware of the role DYRS plays in preventing crime throughout the city. This is a key reason why we open Achievement Center programming to youth throughout the district, regardless of whether or not they've been committed to the agency. Furthermore, we have significantly expanded the scope of our credible messenger work, helping to ensure that a young person does not need to be involved with the justice system in order to have a mentor to help guide their decision-making. But admittedly, we know this is not enough. Our fundamental goal is to keep our young people safe and to avoid involvement with the criminal justice system, while also ensuring public safety. To that end, we're currently developing a violence prevention initiative for youth at risk of involvement with the criminal justice system. Candidates for the program will be district residents between the ages of 10 to 14 who have been referred and selected for participation. The programs will last 17 weeks for each cohort and will primarily focus on participants becoming positive leaders through group sessions, tailored care, family services, and a structured curriculum. Looking ahead, I will be challenging my team to ensure that more families in our communities are reached and know more about the programming offered by DYRS and other district agencies and organizations. For us, being intentional in our work is paramount in reimagining how we can better serve every at-risk youth in the district. And being intentional in our work means contributing to a safer, stronger DC. Ultimately, we know that drawing on the strengths of our young people and their families produces positive outcomes in their lives. As an agency, we're responsible for putting the youth we serve in the best position to succeed so that they will not re-enter the criminal justice system. Our charge is helping young people emerge from our care with new behaviors, skill sets, resiliency, and hope for their futures. So we constantly remind ourselves of this charge and the urgency of our work. In closing, I would like to sincerely thank our staff for recognizing how interconnected our work is and for striving to provide our youth with the best continuum of care that we know how. Your effort makes a difference in the lives of our youth. I would also like to thank Mayor Bowser, City Administrator Donahue, and Deputy Mayor Apia for their invaluable leadership, which is critical to our agency's success and continuous improvement. I look forward to seeing what we, in partnership with our sister agencies and community partners, can achieve as we continue this work together. And lastly, but certainly not least, thank you, Councilman White, Chairperson White, and your committee for your continued leadership and for this opportunity to address the Committee on Recreation, Libraries, and Youth Affairs. I'm happy to address any questions that you might have at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Steinbach, for your leadership and filling this role at such a late notice. Let me start with this. Prior to being the interim director for DYRS, what was your role at the agency?
Yes, council member, my immediately previous role at the agency was Chief Operating Officer.
Thank you. And Mr. Al-Jabari, what is your role at the agency?
Chairperson White, my current role is Chief of Staff at DYRS. I've been serving this role since 2015.
Also, Mr. Al-Jabari, are you on the Office of Internal Integrity? What is your affiliation with that part of the agency?
The Office of Internal Integrity, or OII, does report up to me. So yes, it is in my chain of command.
So can you give us a brief detail of what happens when there's a report filed, how it gets to you?
Sure. So an allegation will occur of abuse or neglect at either YSC or New Beginnings. And at that junction, an investigator, there are 3 investigators on the team, will begin opening an investigation in order to determine whether or not we'll proceed with opening an investigation, and they will interview all the necessary parties. They will review all necessary video footage, and upon conclusion of their preliminary investigation, they begin. They put it together in a report. Them in coordination with their manager, the supervisory investigator. At that point, after they have concluded their draft investigation, it is submitted to me to review and to ask questions regarding the draft statement. And from there, after all questions on my end are answered, they publish the document to facilities leadership and agency leadership and to other necessary parties.
So based on what you're saying that how many investigators are there currently on staff?
I believe there's 3 today. And I'm sorry, there will be 4, including their manager.
So these investigators get these reports through interviews and interrogations, and then send them to their manager, and ultimately a draft statement is sent to you.
Yes, sir.
And what do you do with these statements?
I review the draft statement. I then, if I have my own questions to the investigators, I submit that via through a track comment process. And then after my questions are answered, then the investigation is finalized and submitted to appropriate personnel.
And this track comment process, is this happening through email? Is this some type of system that you all have?
I'm sorry, sir, I did not hear the first thing you stated before email.
You said it goes through a track comment process. I said, is this track comment process via email, or is this some type of internal system that you all have?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I will respond. I will send it back via email, and then I will have a Teams conversation, video conference with the manager to ensure all the questions that I may have are answered.
Now I don't know all the org chart there. Who is underneath for you on the Office of Internal Integrity branch that you oversee?
The supervisory investigator or the manager of the unit, her name is Ms. Harpreet Moore.
And who's underneath of her?
Under Ms. Harpreet Moore, there are 3 investigators currently. Those 3 investigators, and there's a program support specialist. So there are 4 staff members. Would you like the names?
No, I just want to know, once they go from the investigator, they go to Harpreet Moore, then they go to you.
Yes, sir.
At what point do they get to the directors, if any?
Upon the director sees the final product. The director does not get involved in any of the drafting process.
All right. As you know, thank you, Mr. Aljabari. I want to go back to Director Steinback, and you can chime in if needed. There has been a lot of serious allegations at DYRS, probably in the last 2 years. And I know you have not been a director, but served in the capacity of COO. But I need to know, are you aware of the use and overdose of fentanyl at the facility by youth?
Council member, I am aware that there have been some contraband issues within the facilities. With regard to the details, I have not been involved in those conversations. So I don't know, what was found, what was used, or any information related to the actual contraband that was found.
So is this the first time you're hearing the word fentanyl?
Can you repeat that, council member?
Is this the first time you're hearing the word fentanyl used as contraband in the facility?
Council member, I've heard staff say that it might have been fentanyl. I've heard staff say drugs in general, but I have not heard a report of what was actually found or what was actually confiscated.
Mr. Aljabari, are you aware of overdose of fentanyl at the facility at DYRS?
Council member, it was brought to my attention that there was contraband and that a resident may have used illicit substances. To this point, to date, I have not yet received the draft investigation, which would allow me to have more information regarding what may or may not, they may have tested positive for in any subsequent test. But to answer your question, I have heard that there is an ongoing investigation, but it has not reached me at this point.
How long ago has this investigation been going on for this particular incident?
I believe approximately 3 weeks.
3 weeks?
Yes, sir.
Your mic is echoing for some reason. Okay. Can you test the mic now? So in 3 weeks of an allegation of fentanyl, I know about it, you've heard about it, but no one has able to verify nothing. And it's been over 3 weeks, honestly. In 3 weeks, no one can verify what is in that facility. So for what we do know, it was contraband. Is the contraband been tested? Has it been sent to a lab? Has there been a conclusion of investigation? Is it still traveling throughout the facility? So I have to ask those questions to make sure that we are doing everything we can to make sure, as we know, we're in an epidemic where fentanyl is actually killing people. Mm-hmm. And this is Department of Youth Rehabilitation Services for our youth. And so it's pretty lax that I asked a question like this and they keep getting referred to the word contraband. It sounds so general. We're talking about a killer, a well-known killer that's shocking the world all over the country about this drug that's getting into the community and let alone in one of our facilities. And so I really want to be careful that we are transparent and honest, because if we don't acknowledge a problem, it's no way that we can come up with a solution. It sounds to me we haven't even acknowledged there's a problem of fentanyl use in the facility. So I'm trying to ask, when did this happen? What unit and what steps has been taking place to figure out what it is and how to eradicate the problem and where it came from?
Council member, I could provide you a full detailed report after the hearing. I'm sorry, at this moment, I don't have the details of the questions that you're asking.
You can provide a full detailed report when?
After this hearing, I'm going to grab the team together and I will ask for the draft to be expedited in my inbox for it.
What's the typical time it takes for a draft? What's the typical time it takes for a draft to get to Hoppy more than to get to you?
Approximately 25 days.
25 days. And based on that information, how long does the interviewing process takes, and who is interviewed in a situation like this?
I'll have that information to you by tomorrow.
So I'm just in general, because if this allegation happened in a particular area, is the cameras viewed? Is it all staff viewed that's working on that unit? Are they brought in? What's the process for this situation? And has that process been followed yet?
without having seen the I can state this: interviews have occurred. How the interview participants are selected occurs with video review, the staffing plan to see who was working on the units at the time, and who an allegation may have been made against. And from that point forward, the investigator will lay out who will be interviewed from a staffing perspective as well as a resident perspective. And then they will begin interviewing. They take notes with each interview. They put that into a report. And at that point, that is when it would be sent to me. But so the interviewees are selected based off a combination of video footage, allegations, and who was working on the unit at the time, or who may have been close to the resident at the time.
So is there a weekly log that happens?
There's a daily log. Every shift has a log.
Every shift has a log. And this is a real serious incident that occurred in one of our facilities. And no leadership has looked at the log at all.
I am aware that leadership has looked at the log. It has assessed it. I have not. So there has been high-level senior managers have been involved in this. It's just that the investigation has not reached me at this point.
Okay, so the only person under you is Ms. Hoppy Moore, correct?
That's correct. And for the internal investigation, that is the manager who reports to me.
How many investigators are assigned to this particular case?
Be one investigator per each case. So there would be one investigator who works with the manager.
And I want to ask you, Director Steinbach, what has been done to figure out how this got in the facility and what preventive measures have been taken to change any policy or procedures as a result of this?
Right. So, council member, I want to reiterate that, for myself, it was a while after the incident occurred that I even remotely was made aware. But I do know that there were canine units brought in order to search the entire facility. We've had staff, managers increase their eyes on the units, and even our deputy director for secure programs has spent countless number of hours within the facility since the incident. Trying
Who's
to
the deputy
ensure
director? Who's that?
That's Adina Levi.
Go ahead. I cut you off. Go ahead. I'm listening.
No, I was just saying that she has increased efforts to ensure that contraband is not coming into the facilities. They've also increased screening at the front of each facility in order to ensure that contraband is not coming in.
Thank you. And I have one more with a few more, but I'm gonna go to my next panel. My next panel after this. I see Councilman Lewis. I'm sorry, Councilman Henderson has joined. Sorry. But I did want to know, in my last question in the last hearing, there were two critical incidents. One, there was a alleged rape case that happened at DYRS. And I was told that it was a male entering the female dormitory in which the allegation happened, and there was going to be a meeting and some changes. Do you know if there was any changes as relates to male-female interaction or policy about how people move throughout the agency?
So, Councilmember, I am aware of the case that you're referring to. I can't get into too many details because of the ongoing criminal investigation, but in terms of what DYRS has done, we try to ensure that there's always gender-appropriate staffing. So female youth, should be supervised by male youth. And when male staff, I'm sorry. And when male staff come onto the unit, for whatever reason, they're supposed to announce themselves. But also the female staff are supposed to remain in their presence.
So in our last hearing, that was not a policy. When has that policy changed and when did it start being implemented?
I don't know that that policy has actually changed, council member. I think that once this allegation occurred, we shifted, some of the practices in the facility.
Well, and hearing from staff, there's been no changes. And as you saying there's no policy, how do you hold these changes into accountability to ensure all staff know there's new policy for this because this critical incident, and we need you all doing this, this, and this? How do you ensure accountability?
And council member, I think you're absolutely right. I think we need to go back and review all of our policies and ensure that they're updated appropriately. As you know, this is my first official day in this role.
Yep.
And so I want to assure you that going forward, I am going to be the one to ensure that these policies and procedures are put into place.
Thank you. I'll digress. I know you're in a hot seat and you just started, so we want to give you some grace, but these are very serious allegations and cases that we must ask in a hearing like this to ensure that we are having the public's best interest at heart and ensuring that there's changes and oversight in this agency. Councilmember Henderson, you have any open statements or questions?
I just have a couple of questions, if that's okay, Mr. Chairman. I know I'm not a member of your committee, but I appreciate you. Can you guys still hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, great. So, Mr. Stanback, as the chairman said, I could appreciate that you're new in this particular position, but I'm hearing sort of the exchange that you had with the chairman. I'm still a little confused on something. So in terms of the contraband incident, when will you all have a final report on what happened and the next steps?
So I will confer with Mr. Al-Jaburi and his team to identify an actual time frame for which we expect to have a completed report. But Mr. Al-Jaburi has promised to get back to Councilmember White's office on what we know and what we know right now, what our investigators know right now.
Okay. What's the current census at New Beginnings and Youth Social Services Center?
At New Beginnings, we have 48 youth. 35 of those youth are committed to the agency, and 13 are Title 16.
Wow. And the other location?
Oh, sorry about that. And at YSC, we have 49 youth. 23 are committed, and then 16 are securely detained. The others are a combination of interstate compact youth who are being held in the district on behalf of other jurisdictions, and overnighters.
Right. When I was looking over the DRS's key performance indicators over the past 6 years, I noticed an interesting sort of fluctuation in the number of youth that have been committed daily. So for instance, from 2017 to 2018, the average population at YSC dropped from 81 to 43. And then we saw an uptick again in 2022 to 53. But I'm curious, there are a variety of things that could go into that particular number. Do you have any thoughts in terms of what we're seeing from the numbers now?
I might need to ask you for a little clarity, Councilmember Henderson, but I think you're asking about trends or directions that we think that the population is going.
Yes.
It's a little difficult for me to say today on the first day in this role. I think that over the prior several years or so, we had seen a decline in youth who are committed to the agency. And so that would be a part of the reason why, we would have fewer youth in our facilities, but also with regard to the pandemic. I think the pandemic probably impacted the number of youth who were sent to our facilities by the courts.
Okay.
And
Do you all, I'm sorry, go ahead, Mrs. Smith.
no, I'm sorry, I cut you
off. Do you all collect data on recidivism?
We do collect data on recidivism.
And what's the current percentage or of this past year?
If I'm correct, and I'll have Mr. Al-Jabouri correct me if I'm wrong, I believe the recidivism rate for the last cohort was about 25%.
So a quarter of people.
Yes, council member.
Now, from national average statistics, is that high or low?
I believe that is somewhat on par. It's definitely not high, but I believe that the national trend is somewhere in the 30% area.
I understand that DRS recently began working with Maya Angelou Public Charter School to provide educational services for committed youth. How is that partnership going?
So it's an excellent partnership. We've actually been working with Maya for quite some time. It's just that in the last fiscal year, they became our educational partner at the Youth Services Center in addition to New Beginnings. Previously, they were only at New Beginnings. But the partnership is a great partnership, for youth who are leaving the Youth Services Center and their next placement is at New Beginnings. It's a seamless transition educationally. And then, they're working with our youth at both the Youth Services Center and at New Beginnings, youth who are eligible for GED prep. They do both of those. They'll do those services at both facilities. And so we're grateful to be partnering with Maya.
Okay. In terms of the oversight that DYRS, the agency, is providing, when is the last time you all checked to make sure all of the IEPs of the students are current?
Council member, I would have to check with our education department. That education department has not fallen under my purview in my time here.
Okay.
So I would have to check to determine when the last time that they did that.
If possible, I'd love if someone can follow up
Absolutely.
with me on that. And that's not to point out you directly. Across the district, we have had a struggle with our RLYAs keeping up with necessary timelines for evaluations and updates for IEPs. So I just want to make sure that these young people are also continuing to receive educational services on top of the services that you all are providing on sites. My last question, this is more sort of, in some ways it might not be fair for you on your first day. But as you know, the district, our region, the country, right, we're all sort of grappling right now in terms of what we're seeing as sort of an uptick in activity, criminal activity amongst young people. And in some instances, there's a lot of impulsive actions that are taking place, right? Like, oh, this sounds cool. Okay, let's go do it without thinking through the particular consequences. In some cases, it's quick to anger as opposed to, working through some of those things in terms of conflict resolution without dealing with, the violence piece. And there are some young people who may be leading to a path where they are going to end up somewhere, but actually might benefit from the services that you all are providing. And especially like the case management type services. And so I'm curious what conversations, if any, you all are having with the Office of the Attorney General, with some of the other agency partners, whether it be the ONE's office or the Office of Gun Violence Prevention, or even the LEAs, around how can we connect some young people to services prior to them even coming to our agency?
Sure. And yes, you're correct. We are having conversations with our other district government agencies, the Office of the Attorney General, and other agencies that might refer youth to some of our programming. I want to highlight the violence prevention initiative that I mentioned earlier, and that several of the witnesses have spoken about, and even Chairperson White mentioned the need, for basically all hands on deck. We're not trying to further criminalize youth who have not penetrated the justice system, but at the same time, something is going on in our community, and we also have to do our part to prevent them from further delving into the justice system. And so that is why the mayor has asked us to work on a violence intervention program, and that is why we are, targeting youth in the 10 to 14-year-old range in order to help prevent behaviors that might land them at YSC or New Beginnings. We don't want them there. We want to keep them in the community.
Thank you for your time. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Out of time.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I want to jump back in real quick. Interim Director, stand back. What was your responsibility as a chief operating officer with the agency?
Sure, council member. As the chief operating officer, I had several teams under my purview: the information technology team, the real estate and property management team, and our administrative services, which encompasses, contracting and procurement, our budget folks, as well as the licensing and contract compliance for our community-based residential facilities.
Thank you. I appreciate that. How long have you been with the agency?
I've been at the agency almost 9 years now.
9 years. Okay. Thank you. I want to jump back to my previous questions about process and procedure as relates to critical incidents facing the agency and corrective measures being taken. And I'm concerned that, like, for example, right, this rape case that's now a federal case happened in what, 2019? Was that 2019? I think it was 2019.
I'm not sure of the exact date, council member, that we.
Yeah, I think it was the year 2019, right? And it's 2023, and I still have not heard anything from the agency that gives us any assurance that anything has been done differently to protect our youth and or give them a voice to have the freedom to talk about if they had any negative experience there to this magnitude. You may or may not know, but after this incident happened, it was in the media, of course, and I posted an article on my page, and on my page, there were several people in the comments that spoke to the same gentleman alleged to the rape, having negative interactions with them. None of them said the word rape per se, but sexual interactions. And it's just basic due diligence to ensure that an agency is doing everything in its power to keep young people safe in our facilities, because it's all types of things that happen when we don't. So I'm concerned about that, which moves me to my next situation, was that we know that there was a youth being detained, and in the youth being detained, the youth suffered from a broken jaw. I believe the broken jaw was in 2 different places. Are you aware of this incident?
I am aware of the incident that you're referring to, council member.
Thank you. Mr. Algebra, are you aware of this incident?
I'm aware of the incident, council member.
Thank you. Based on this particular incident, Mr. Algebra, was there an investigation? What year does it, if so, what year does the investigation start?
The incident you're referring to, I believe, occurred in 2022. The investigation also occurred in 2022. It was concluded within probably, I don't remember the exact date, but it was finalized within a few weeks of the incident.
When you say finalized, just explain to me what finalized mean, please.
The incident ended up, the incident report ended up in, the matter resulted in personnel actions. I'm not sure if I can state more than that in this forum.
That's fine. No, that's fine. That's fine. I did, and I don't want to speak to the actual incident with people's names, but where the incident occurred, was this an area that was in view of a camera?
Actually, it was not in view of a camera. It was in a location where there was no camera.
And was the youth who suffered injuries already in the area where there's no camera, or was he or she taken to the area where there's no camera?
The allegation occurred in the youth's bedroom. That's where that alleged incident occurred. And there are no cameras in any of the young people's bedrooms or in the bathrooms as well. The incident that you're referencing did begin with personnel trying to de-escalate the young person, and eventually they did end up in the young person's bedroom, which is part of the actually standard protocol. The allegation is not part of standard protocol, to be clear.
Thank you. And based on you being over top of the investigative department, at what layers did this come to you? How did you learn about this incident?
I heard about this incident, I believe, either the same day or within 24 hours about the allegation, and an investigation was opened immediately. But it was on my radar within 24 hours, if not immediately.
So what then happened after you learned about the allegations, and at what point did it escalate to the director?
The director's also made aware of the allegation within 24 hours.
How did you hear about it?
I can't recall right now, council member. It was either going to be through a phone call or email. I would have to go look at my records.
And once you hear about a situation this serious, what's the protocol? What do you do?
Immediate action is aside from opening up an investigation, if there is a credible allegation that impacted staff, are immediately placed on no contact. No contact is a designation that does not allow them to work with youth directly until there is at least enough evidence to show that they may not have been involved in the alleged incident. If there is no evidence, they will remain on no contact until the conclusion of the investigation, or unless there's a personnel action taken before the conclusion of the investigation.
And was any individual who was involved in this whole incident wearing any body cameras?
Council member, our staff do not wear body cameras, so no.
No individual. Do you have any body cameras in the facility at all?
I don't believe we do.
I'll come back to that. And so was this individual who was injured receiving medical treatment at the facility or outside?
Started at the facility with the internal medical staff, and then the medical personnel wanted to take the young person to a hospital that could treat his injuries.
Okay. And did they go immediately from what you know?
I believe it was within a few hours, but I have not looked at this in a few months, so I can verify that. I can double check that. For my recall, it was all pretty immediate. The young person went to the medical personnel relatively shortly after the incident occurred, and then from there they made the recommendation to have additional medical scrutiny from a hospital. But I can provide you specifics on timing as well. I just do not recall that at this moment.
And from that incident, has any policy or actions been changed from administration on down to, and this for anyone on at DYS, to ensure that because the DYS is able to refrain youth? Has anything been changed about how to refrain? Any trainings happened since then?
The standard protocol for youth restraint has not been changed since this incident, to be clear. The actions that have occurred regarding this incident have been personnel actions. Regarding trainings, staff are required to do refresher trainings on an annual basis, especially regarding SCM, which is the tool utilized to de-escalate. But as specific training as a result of this incident, I don't believe anything occurred that was specific to this, aside from what may have occurred to the impacted staff.
Have you, interim director of any, or you, Mr. Alderberry, heard any recommendations about equipping staff with cameras?
From my lens, I have not heard of any recommendations from staff requesting body cameras at this point.
Not staff, anybody,
Not made
not
those
just staff.
recommendations to other staff, but no, it has not been brought to my attention until this moment.
What about you?
Likewise, council member, I don't recall ever hearing any staff bringing up body cameras or the desire to have them. But that doesn't mean that they haven't made that request of others.
Over the last 2 years, there has been several incidents from youth on staff and staff on youth allegations of assaults. Has any policy or course of action changed in the last 2 years relates to how youth relates to the students? To the youth relates to the staff and vice versa?
So yes, council member, there was a serious incident policy that came to be through leadership of the agency's work with the leaders of the Fraternal Order of Police Union. And that policy was to ensure that staff knew their right to press charges should any serious incident occur where a youth harmed a staff person. But to my knowledge, that's the extent of the policy that I know about that has changed. But we'd be happy to get back with our secure programs and provide you an update on what policy changes have occurred.
Thank you. So to my knowledge, there has always been an option for staff to be able to press charges, correct?
You're right, council member, but at the time, the union officials and some of our youth development representatives did not believe that they were allowed to from an employment standpoint. And so, the agency partnered with the union to ensure that the staff knew that the agency couldn't stop them from pressing charges if they chose to.
So that sounds like more of an information session than a policy change. Am I correct in saying that or not?
Well, we did create an actual policy that surrounds this.
what the policy changed from what to what?
Well, there was no official policy before. And then the policy that, we collaborated with the union to prepare articulated the rights of the union members to press charges in the event of a serious incident.
So who changed the policy? Who in the agency creates policy?
It's usually a combination of people. I know that at the time I was the labor liaison, so I worked directly with the union officials. And at the time, I believe, I'm not sure who the director was at the time. I'm not sure if it preceded Clinton Lacey's departure.
So I know we had Clinton Lacey there. I know we had what Mr. Foster was he was associate director. I'm not sure the exact title. Is Mr. Foster still there?
Are you Mr. Foster, who was the superintendent of
Darryl
YS?
Foster.
Right, Mr. Foster
Yeah.
was the superintendent of the Youth Services Center, and no, he is no longer with the agency.
You're no longer with the agency? As of how long ago?
I couldn't give you the exact date, but I would approximate maybe within the last 2 to 3 months.
How many staff does DYRS have currently?
Councilmember, I know we have approximately 565 FTEs. I believe we have around 500 that are filled, but I would have to double check with our HR department.
Yeah, so normally that information is readily available at a performance oversight hearing. So that'd be helpful if you can have someone look into that while we're on this hearing to get back to us.
I will do that right now, Councilmember.
I think I heard you mention that at New Beginners there were 48 youth, 35 committed, and I think you have 14 Title 16. Is that accurate?
48 youth, 35 are committed, and 13 Title 16 at New Beginnings.
13. You stated in your written testimony that 20 DYRS youth earned workforce development certifications in FY22, and of that 45%, which is about 9, obtained employment. How do you keep record of youth who are coming in and leaving out, and what they are achieving? What type of system do you use?
So, Councilmember, I would have to check in with the program staff in our achievement centers to gather that information. I know that they do have youth sign in when they come into the facilities and they keep attendance for the various programs. I don't know if there is a specific technological program other than our case management system to gather that information.
So in your previous role, you served as chief operating officer and you did contracting, right? Adam, I guess Mr. Algebra, I'm sorry, you've been here for a while. No one knows what system you were using to track who's coming in, who's leaving out. You gave the numbers. Someone in the agency gave me numbers of how many youth are gaining employment. I assume it's not coming off the top of somebody's head. So,
well, no, sorry, council member. The case management system that we use is FamCare. That's where we track everything related to our youth. But if there's something in addition to that they're using, I would have to inquire of them.
I got you. Now that's pretty much what we're looking for. You stated in your opening statement the issue that you couldn't leave out was public safety, and I think that's critical throughout the district. And we're seeing too many. I was reading an article this morning about a car being found in Maryland that was from DC for another carjacking, right? and we're seeing youth, young adults, even older adults involved in these carjackings. And there's a conversation, as you may have heard in the public witness part, about do we, as an agency with DRS, get involved in prevention, or do we stay out of prevention and deal with the youth that come through us throughout the courts? And I guess some of the concern that I heard from Sandra Segas and even from the youth was about budget. And I know that when the budget was 60% of what it is now, and we had 1,000 kids, we had a lot more programming, meaning we had over 1,000 kids. Now we have to oversee less than 250 kids now, correct?
Yes, council member.
Yeah, so, and we still have the same two facilities. We may have more functions as far as like the different centers we have in the community, but essentially we've pretty much are financially sound. Do you think that DRS should be involved in prevention? And do you think that we have the finances to do that and be effective?
Yes, council member. First of all, like I stated previously, nobody here wants to further criminalize youth who may not have touched the juvenile justice system or may not have penetrated the juvenile justice system. However, I think it's all of our charge to ensure that our community is safe. And so if that means DRS gets involved in violence prevention, then I do think that that's something that needs to happen. In terms of the budget, I do think we have the appropriate budget to be able to do just that. I think that we have the means to implement our violence intervention program, as well as bolster our programs throughout the secure facilities and the community.
Thank you. I appreciate you saying that. You stated that we have about 565 FTEs and approximately 500 field. I know one of the issues that I was having in trying to do oversight with the agencies is that the DRS will say that something is posted to the public, and by the time I look at on the website, it's not there. So I don't know if it's posted for us 10 minutes, 5 minutes, a month, or if it's filled or not. Let me ask you this. How long does something stay posted for opening? Because I see, you say approximately 65 vacancies, right? That has not been filled. Are all these posted now? Are these not posted? What's DRS plan to fulfill these vacancies?
So, council member, one of my first orders of business is to meet with our HR team to get a sense of where we are with our vacancies and the positions that we have posted. I just can speak generally to the fact that I know positions are open for varying periods of time. I'm not sure, what specific positions you are referring to that, you were being told were posted publicly, but you couldn't find. But I will gladly work with you and our HR department to figure out, just what's going on with those postings.
Thank you. And what is the plan to fill those vacancies? Do you know? Or Mr. Algebari, Chief of Staff, can you get some insight on this if you know?
Well, first, council member, let me say, I have not had an opportunity to meet with all of the team since learning of my appointment to this role. And so, I do want to have an opportunity to get in front of our HR team to talk strategy, because those were conversations that I wasn't necessarily a part of prior to this role.
Got it. Mr. Algebari.
Councilmember, I'm sorry, I was speaking to HR about the vacancy rate question that you asked. I missed that part of the question, but I can answer you. I received that we have 16% vacancy rate right now. We have 486 positions filled, but we have 585 positions total. So right now we have about approximately 99 FTEs open within the agency. And I
That's a
apologize
lot.
for not hearing the question that you asked me directly. I was gathering that information.
No, that's great. I appreciate that because that's almost 100 vacancies within the agency. And then to my understanding that there has been a number of unusual resignations from the agency. Are you guys aware of that?
Councilman, I know that there have been, a number of resignations and separations for a variety of reasons. But that too is one of those items that I really want to work with HR to understand. I don't want to pretend to understand what the problem is today on day one, but I would like to work with our HR department to dissect and figure out, what we can do better in the retention department.
Yeah, that has been concerning for me. That we have a government and you hear people from the community say, I would love to work with DRS because I want to work with the kids. That's what my call. And I think God want me to work with the kids. And then I call the agency to figure out what openings there are. I tell them it's listed online. There's no calls being made. There's no interviews being set up. And then today is February. New fiscal year started October, November, December, January, February, 5 months, almost half of the fiscal year almost over, and we still got 100 vacancies. And so we have to fix this. I'm not sure what needs to be done, but this is not good governing and the best use of people's tax dollars and resources. And this has to be a reason why. And then not only that the position not filled, we found that people that are filling those positions are leaving the agency as well. And so there's something going on with the culture there, in which I know you have the wherewithal, Mr. Steinbach. I got confidence in you that you can turn this agency around. I'm not sure all of what happened with Miss Director Kearns, but I think that she was heading in the right direction. But now we have to figure this out because we have a population of youth, and we're talking about doing something in addition to what we already do, and that's prevention and adding more staff when the ship still have a lot of holes inside of it. So I'm concerned about that.
Understood, Councilman.
Moving right along. Can you speak to the culture of caring at DYS? We talked about some of the incidents, well, maybe some negative incidents, but I know that all interactions with DYS are not negative, as a testimony to the youth that's coming through the program and done exceptionally well. The number that's in college, the number at jobs, taking care of their kids. What kind of personnel do you have assigned, and how do you ensure that you have good people on staff intervening and working with our young people?
Right. So, council member, in terms of a culture of caring, part of it is ensuring that our team, our staff, are pouring into not just the young people, but their families also. So whether it's parents, caregivers, siblings, close friends, it's ensuring that, we're providing the love and support for their entire, immediate family. In terms of determining how we figure out how we have good staff here, I think it's a combination of things. One, is the human resources screening, but two, it's also working with our community partners, working with your office and other agencies to identify, people in the community, people who are close to these young people that these young people will listen to. So I think, all of our work together is important to creating the culture of caring that you're referring to.
Thank you. I'm glad you mentioned family. And when your response is sent to the council committee, you stated that part of your level system at New Beginnings, you focus on treating the family and encouraging the family through therapy. Can you speak to what that is and how that occurs?
Right. So, council member, you mentioned earlier, we have a core support team. I know you said, that it's been called different things over the years, and it has been, but, this team is comprised of, a team of professionals within the agency, but they also work to incorporate the family into the decision-making that is going on with our young people. And so, so that we as an agency are not unilaterally telling our families and our young people, what they need to do. We're asking that they be involved and help us make the best decisions for their young person.
Got it. And is there a particular, is this happening in-house, or are you contracting someone to provide these services?
Well, the core support team is in-house, but we also contract with, as you know, credible messengers. We contract with family engagement specialists, and they too are part of that conversation with the families, with the young person, and with the staff.
Thank you. Are you familiar with the SYEP program, the summer employment program that DYS hosts?
I am, council member. We've been hosting the SYEP program for, I believe, a couple of years now. And we've had approximately 40 youth to secure employment through SYEP, I believe in FY22 alone.
Got it. How are you all recruiting youth to get employed now that it's open at the moment?
Can you repeat that, council member?
Yeah, so SYP is starting up again. How are you getting your staff situated to enroll youth who are going to be there during the summer to get this employment?
Right. So I do know, and I heard some of the witnesses mention earlier in their testimony that we need to do a better job of getting the word out on, in terms of everything it is that we do here at DYRS. And I do know that one thing that the Achievement Center staff, and our workforce development staff, two teams that are heavily involved in the SYEP program for DYRS, they are working on a advertising campaign in order to broadcast the fact that we're looking for youth participants to participate with us in the SYEP program.
And I do like the fact that DYS has opened up its offerings to career technical education, CTE programming. And I just believe that, there shouldn't be a youth coming out if we know, especially our youth that are attained or committed, at minimum, they're going to be in a facility for 6 months, right? They got to go through the steps, and 6 months is the minimum they got to do, correct?
I think it would probably take them, the shortest period of time, maybe 7 to 9 months to complete the program.
Well, I'm talking about once you used to detain in a facility, say new beginnings, they got to get to at least 6 months to even be considered to release.
Right, but even before that, Councilmember, there's a 30-day introductory period where the youth go through orientation, and then the levels would be bare minimum another 6 months, and then maybe even another 2 weeks or so before they would be able to transition out. So at minimum, we're talking 7.5 months at minimum.
Okay. I just would think, and I've been pressing this upon the agency, that there should be enough offerings set up, because this youth or these youth are there 24 hours, 7 days a week for 7 months, right? And they should be involved in something that helps them increase their earning potential. right? Now you're not going to get a master's degree in 6 months. You're not going to become a master plumber, a master electrician, or a master barber. I don't know each certification timing, but I do know that part of what we hear continuously from youth is they get involved because of economic issues. They're trying to make money. I can't feed myself. I even heard one parent say their 13-year-old was the man of the house. And so youth are forced to get out there and figure it out on their own as early as 11, 12, 13. And they end up in the system or breaking law, trying to feed themselves. And so using my intelligence, if we're going to have them for 7 months, we need to ensure they're able to be skilled or in a path of doing something that helps them earn a greater income so they can come out different. What's your thoughts on that, Mr. Standback?
I absolutely agree with you, council member. We do have, some vocational training programs within the facilities, but we want to also create more opportunities for hands-on vocational learning, so that youth can not only gain the classroom experience, but also gain some real hands-on practical experience that one may help them get, an apprenticeship when they come home, or, put them, that much farther along the way to actually earning some type of certification.
Can anybody speak to, you said some vocational training? What are those vocational training opportunities there? If anyone can speak to what that is.
Yeah, council member, I know we have a number of vocational programs there, including construction and barbering. And I would have to defer to my colleague, Mr. Azabori, if he has a longer list of items that we're offering there.
Yes, council member, also at New Beginnings, we have automotive programming, we have carpentry, there's customer service courses, there is vocational barbering, there is also graphic arts, and that rounds out at New Beginnings at YSC. They're now going to YSC facility, Youth Services Center. We have cooking classes, we have dramatic arts, driver's ed, girls etiquette program, horticulture, mindfulness, music program, religious services at both facilities, and also some, it's a trauma and grief therapy component for adults at both facilities as well.
Let me ask you this, because I've heard a list like this before. And when I went to the facility, I only learned that some of these are not active. Do you know if all these are active right now, or is just a list that you have at the moment?
It was a list provided to me within the last few days. But I can for current programming, but I can double check and ensure that what I stated to you are ongoing. But to answer your question, yes, this list came to me very recent, within the last few days.
And from that, what programs want any type of certifications, or what are they obtaining from these different offerings? Because some of my classes, some of my, like, you talked about I want to say like home economics. What was it? It was cooking. All right. You may not be able to, you may or may not be, a chef per se, but you can get something in 7 months in cooking. What's the end goal of these programs or trades?
So council member, I can tell you that I just got some more information back that all of those programs are active. In terms of the actual outcomes and what the youth are obtaining, in addition to just the practical experience, we would have to get back to you on which of them are certificate programs, or which of them are actual, lead to some kind of designation.
Okay. I also noted that you all are recruiting a substance abuse treatment coordinator to focus on substance abuse counseling and treatment. Is this a new position? And where are we in filling that position?
As far as I understand, we have an active recruitment for that position. I believe it is a current FTE that was repurposed. But again, council member, I would have to circle back with our HR department. I have not had time to meet with them since I
Do we have an HR person that can join a hearing? Because a lot of the written responses are HR matters, and this is a public performance oversight hearing for a government agency. And so, but we got to be able to get this, like, circling back to me is good and email and all that, but this is a government in which these public tax dollars. Do we have anyone that's in HR that can join us in this hearing? That'd be
sure,
helpful.
Councilman. I will reach out right now and see if I can get someone to join.
Thank you so much. While you're doing that, I want to ask, how do you feel that the Credible Messengers program is working as far as helping to decrease the violence and keep connectivity to some of the highest risk youth in the community? And do you see them collaborating with other partners and organizations in the community?
Absolutely, council member. I think our Credible Messengers are doing a commendable job, both in our secure facilities, but also in the community. I know that they have been a part of a number of outreach efforts, especially around, certain nightlife and holiday weekends where there might be a tendency to have an increased level of crime. And our Credible Messengers, go out of their way to make sure that they are in the community and available to help intercept any type of criminal activity, along with our youth and public safety team, as well as other violence interrupters around the district. I know our Credible Messengers are also working in conjunction with some of the Credible Messengers at DC Public Libraries, at DC Public Schools as well, and at and also with our violence interrupters with DPR in the one's office.
Okay. I think that's helpful because when we talk about Credible Messengers, we know that some have been working very well in the community and being a mentor, a liaison for youth in the community. I see them often here and there. And so I think that's a good thing. And we actually put money in the budget to expand that. I don't know if you all used up all the money. I know the year before the money was repurposed for something else after saying we needed more money for Credible Messengers than when it got sent. It got sent elsewhere. Maybe that was the year before. So that concerned me, which I brought up in the last meeting. So I won't beat that dead horse. I do want to ask about your youth who are living in a community that we care for. I did notice that you all stated there was no youth in independent living. Can you explain the process, why that is?
Sure, council member. So at the present time, we do not have a independent living facility. I think that is a matter of looking at our youth population and determining the appropriate placements for them. That is something that I am wholeheartedly intending to do along with our case management team and our residential placements team to determine whether or not we need additional facilities in general, but also additional options in terms of type of facility. I have not historically been involved in the residential placement discussion in terms of what types of placements we need. And so I'm eager to meet with them to find out, what their thoughts are on whether or not we need supervised independent living or other types of facilities in the community.
Yeah, and I do want to say that because based on some of the data that I've been studying, we've seen it as an increase in homeless amongst youth throughout the district. And as the price of living in DC continues to rise, the earning income for youth and young adults have decreased. And the gap is widening every year. And so, for example, we had the young lady today who is going to the Navy, and she's transitioning from being in trouble all the time to becoming gainfully employed. But if she or he can't afford to live anywhere, then that causes them to be in a bad position trying to fend for themselves to be a normal citizen. And if they are committed youth, we should be ensuring that we are doing everything we can. You're talking about the most budget we'd ever had with the least youth we ever had to ensure they at least have stable living conditions where they can reach their potential. We've had other hearings where we had parents, youth who became parents, who are out here homeless and committed trying to find housing, right? And there are often other venues we can use to partner with other government agencies to ensure that we are bridging those gaps, not just leaving them out there to fend for themselves, especially, when the average apartment, you got to have 2 to 3 people living there if you're making minimum wage just to be able to afford to live there. So I just wanted to point that out. I did want to note that I saw something about the group homes. You have converted the group homes into shelters and vice versa. Can anyone speak to the philosophy behind that? And what's the difference between the two?
Sure, council member. So the difference primarily is the population of youth that is being served. And so the group home would be for a DYRS committed youth. And then the shelter home would be for a youth who was ordered by the court to shelter care, but who was not committed to DYRS. The issue is that we're not legally allowed to intermingle the populations. And so we use shelter homes for the non-committed population and group homes for the committed population. And over the years, there have been some facilities who are contractually able to switch from a group home to a shelter home to serve, both of those populations. And so basically, when a switch occurs, it's due to the population need. So if we had more youth who need, excuse me, if we had more youth who were committed, who needed group home care, and we had an abundance of shelter home beds that we can convert, then we would switch those to group home beds. I'm unable to hear you, council member.
Yep.
I'm sorry.
So thank you. I did note that there were some partners in which the agency contracts through that still was not at capacity when it relates to referrals from the agency for youth. Then I hear there's a gap for those who need the services. So I'm not sure what the miscommunication or isn't that. But that is one of my concerns. I have a lot of other questions I'm gonna ask during the budget oversight. That relates to housing, staffing, just programming, connectivity, being creative. So I want you guys to prepare for that because that's gonna be critical. Like for example, you don't have to answer this now, but I was concerned that I'm still seeing that we have capital projects that may or may not have been complete just yet. For example, YC security entrance, YC roof replacement, YC small capital projects, YC health and programming updates, new beginning roof replacements, and a backup generator. And I know this has a lot to do with DGS as well. So if you all, and I have a lot of more questions, if you all have can start, I guess, preparing for some of that, that'll be helpful to me because we want to make sure that we are moving full steam ahead with getting this agency together. And I know that it's your vision director to do that. And I hear it in your voice. I can know you speaking with sincerity, and we have a lot of work to do. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pause for a moment to see if we have any other members here. Okay, I don't see any. I did get a message from my staff saying Councilmember Bonds was asking something, but that could have been another hearing. Give me 1 second. Yeah. All right, so thank you, Director, Chief of Staff, Algebra. As a final note, if anyone could not testify, would like to submit written testimony to be included in the official record, you can email your testimony to the Committee on Recreation, Libraries and Youth Affairs. That's RYA at dccouncil.gov. With no other business before this committee, it is now 5:47 p.m. and this hearing is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, council member.
Thank you, Councilman.